Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioner of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, January 26, 2021. I am Randy Guy, President of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to my right, representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, St. George Island, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Representing the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown, Hollywood, Mr. Mike Hewitt.
Good morning.
John O'Connor, who represents the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, Charlotte, is going to join us via WebEx. John Yon. Sitting to my left, representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Todd Morgan. Seating next to Commissioner Morgan is Dr. Rebecca Bridget, our County Administrator.
Good morning.
Lisa Cassis, our Communications Director, is sitting at the table to my right.
Good morning.
Amy Carter, our Video Media Producer, is behind the glass. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. At this time, please stand for the invocation and pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gathering of these commissioners today and our staff to continue to guide the county to prosper and hopefully get over this pandemic. We are doing very well with our shots, and we are hoping that we'll continue this and somehow bring some normalcy back to St. Mary's County. In your name, please help us and guide us. Amen.
Amen.
For pledge, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. And next, we need the approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of January 12, 2021 as presented.
Second.
I have a first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any disapprovals? Aye. Ayes have it. Next, we have several presentations. First will be the annual recognition of boards, committees, and commissions. And at this time, we have well over 100 people that, I should say, several hundred people that are on various boards that help the commissioners and the county and guide us in helping to put the right information out there and our laws and whatever, and help us. We need more than just 5 commissioners to help us guide us through this county. And these are our eyes and ears out there, and we appreciate all the volunteerism and work that they do. We're going to go ahead and start with Eric Colvin.
right.
We're going to read the names off. Each commissioner has got a group of names to read. Eric, you can start.
Very good. So thank you to all of our volunteers. So first off, the Agriculture, Seafood, and Forestry Board. Scott C. Bacon, Bonnie Brown, Lynn Klug, Phil Langley, Robert Lumpkins, Charlie Mattingly, Richard Polk, Stephen Reeves, Patrick Russell, Michael Sirk, Ronald Verbos, and Joseph Wood. The Adult Public Guardianship Review Board. Mike Brown, Dr. Joseph DeVitis, Dr. Renee Grace, Sherry Pierce, Thomas Stokel, Kathleen Werner. The Airport Advisory Board, James Alexander, Albert Babcock, Brian Bartholomew Jr., George Hill, Carrie Kelly, Ted Klapka, Robert Lightstone, Gerald Meyerman, Henry Sahoot, Robert Zorski. The Animal Control Advisory Committee, Caesar Afanador, Drema Belingi Grunst, Aubrey Briggs, Melinda Brown, Melissa Carnes, Dr. David Langford, Dr. Patricia Richardson, and Rita Weaver. The Board of Appeals, Guy Bradley, John Brown, Lynn Delahaye, Rich Richardson, Daniel Ikonowski, Wayne Medinsky, George Hayden. And the Board of Trustees Museum Division, Brian Bartholomew Sr., Michael Blackwell, Dr. Walter Boswell, Dr. Catherine Bowes, Michael Brown, Peter Butt, Amy Davis, Dr. Regina Fadden, Robin Finicum, Lynn Petrell, Laura Freese, Victor Gover, Carla Langus, Mary Pettit, Eleanor Slater, and Dale Springer. Thank you all.
Michael, let's go next.
I, too, want to thank everyone who's volunteered for these boards. Lord knows we need you. I'll get through these names, and hopefully I pronounce them correctly. Building Code Board of Appeals. Wayne Hunt, James Danny Johnson, Michael J. Mumauer, Stephen Wilson. Commission for Women. Kimberly Bannister, Olivia Bassett, Jasmine A. Bottoms, Wanda Brown, Joanna Colvin, Carolyn Guy, Marta Kelsey, Juanita Neither, Norma Pipkin, Taylor R. Spencer, Catherine A. Stewart, Catherine M. Stone, Kathleen Warner, Sandra Simmons, Catherine Herndon. Commission on Aging, Anne Marie K. Abel, Joseph M. Adams, Sr., Dr. Walter Boswell, Linda Fry, Carolyn Guy, Virginia Morse, Gail Murdoch, Omi O. Olesky, Janet J. Perryman, Reverend Keith B. Shoecraft. Commission for People with Disabilities, Ian Faircloth, Susie Fowler, Jacqueline Hall, Brad Hammond, Barbara G. Hess, Philip E. Horn, Jennifer Randolph, Cheryl Sinclair, John Stober, Keegan Zimmerman. Commission on the Environment, Molly Borman, Thomas Brewer, Norman L. Dean, Jr., Melissa R. Rodriguez, George Thompson, Kristen Whitesell, Stephen W. Woodburn. Compensation Review Commission, Pat Dolan, Maria Akaza, Tom Jarbo, Carolyn King, Mary Ann Murray, John K. Parlett, Jr., Scott Randall.
Todd, what you go ahead and do next?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your service to the county, and I'll start with the Human Relations Committee. Joshua Brewster, Vonta Burks, Joanna Colvin, Amy M. Davis, Adrian Dillahunt, Shameen Frisbee Spencer, Steve Hall, Max Levasseur, Ashley Rayleigh, Steve Wickers. Length of Service Program Award, Mary Ann Murray. Library Board of Trustees, Carolyn Guy, James Hanley, Sandra Honstein, Carolyn Beth Roth, Teresa Setlak, John Walters, Janice Walthour. Local Management Board, Anna N. Cotton, Troy E. Cowan, Michael Dunn, Robin T. Johnson. Metropolitan Commission Board, Roy Alvey, Dale Antosh, Brian Bartholomew Sr., Keith Dugan, Rudolph K. Fairfax Jr., Alice Gaskins, Gerald Edward Meyerman, Joseph I. Russell, Robert Russell, George Thompson. Planning Commission, Merle Evans, Joseph Fazekas, William Allhar III, Carolyn King, Patricia Robrek, Joseph A. St. Clair, Kim Summers, James Thompson, Joseph L. Van Kirk. Plumbing Fuel Gas Board, Daniel Garrison, Richard Montgomery, Bernard Taylor. Recreation and Parks Board, Doug Bellis, Christine M. Kaila, Patrick Murphy, Thomas Nelson, Chandra Norton, Fred J. Parker, Tara Shade, Joshua Schaefer, Greg E. Weaver, and Catherine B. Weatherly. Thank you again for your service, folks.
Thank you, Commissioners, and I got the final list here. Retired Benefit Trust of St. Mary's County, Mary Ann Murray. Social Services Board, Michael L. Blackwell, Richard Buckler, Adam Dyson, Thomas A. Hendrick, Margot Keller, Terry Prochnow, Elisa Stack, Annette Wood. Solar Task Force, Dr. Michael Kane, Bonnie Kilberger, Jeffrey Shaw, Brian Thomas Sr., George Thompson. Transportation Advisory Committee, Laura Carrington, Adam Dyson, Lamel Proctor, Thomas Rogers. Tri-County Animal Shelter, Diane Harris, Richard McGammon. Wycomico Shores Golf Course Advisory Board, Terry Black, Peter Delman, Thomas Dixon, Patrick Dugan, Bernard Needlin Jr., David Fallon, George Weaver, and Thomas Shoemaker. Youth Advisory Committee, Marie Anna, Taylor Berry, Mary Ferns, Marcia Greenberg, Joshua Guy, Michaela Hayden, Zachary Hill, Lamont Lee, Rebecca Mijay, Maria Schulzwisky, hope I said that right, Donovan Weekly, Marsha Williams, the YMCA Local Exploratory Committee, Catherine Askey, Captain John Barbizon, Mike Brown, Ashley Dufresne, Jenna Guzman, Tyrone Harris, Beverly Johnson, Monica Lee, Oma Olushmish, John Parlett, Bennett Wilson. This is the end of our boards, as you
Excuse
see.
me, Mr. President, Mr. Colvin will read
Oh,
Dr.
Commissioner O'Connor's
list.
Commissioner
Oh, you
O'Connor.
haven't read his yet?
No,
No,
Commissioner
actually,
O'Connor will read it.
Okay.
I don't have, I got the list right here in front of me. And I was going to say, actually, one of the things I want to thank all our volunteers for is adapting to technology. And, it's one of those things we're still learning and still moving forward with as a county government. And I definitely appreciate everything that you've done to help our staff in the transition through COVID. So I have the Economic Development Commission, John Barr Jr., Laura Clark, Lisa Creason, Philip Dorsey, William R. Hall III, Dr. Tracy Harris, Barbara Ivy, Phil Langley, Trista Marino, Gerald Edward Behrman, Teresa Mitchell, Tom Sanders, Elizabeth Toggerson, Ronald Verbos, Electrical Examiner Board, Ron Derby, Donald Haskins, James Danny Johnson, Ronald Fetterplace, and Robert Spence. Elms Advisory Committee, George Baraniak, Charles Cameron. Emergency Services Board, Jason Adams, Gary Bell, Sean Davidson, Steve Fassini, James Mattingly III, J.A. Nelson, Ernest Rogers, and Peter Rocky Woodburn. From the Ethics Commission, Reverend Lawrence H. Crabtree, Dr. Joseph DeVitas, Jean Marie Hansen, Kathleen McClernon Waltz, Joseph Russell, and David Willenborg. From the Family Violence Coordinating Council, Tanya Caesar and Annie Kenny. The Historic Preservation Commission, Robert J. Hurry, Eve Love, Ginger A. Newman Askew, Peter Laporte, Craig Lukazik, Kent Randall, Teresa Wilson. The Housing Authority Boards, Roy Alvey, Michelle Armsworthy, Michael Bellis, Joshua Brewster, Tina Dean, Aaron Ramos, Natalie Weech, and Alexis Zoss. And that concludes my list, Mr. President.
Thank you, John. Well, I thank all of you again for your volunteerism. These boards are very important to the county, and you'll be receiving a certificate of this from our county shortly. They'll hand them out to you. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have the North County Farmers Market virtual groundbreaking. Are we ready to go, Lisa?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations. We welcome you to the North County Farmers Market groundbreaking virtual ceremony. Due to the traffic congestion created by the success of the farmers market at the Charlotte Hall Library and the Three Notch Trail, the county purchased a 15-acre property on Thompson's Corner Road that is adjacent to the Three Notch Trail. It's a site for the relocation of the current produce market. The site is envisioned as a multi-use site that will accommodate a value-added market structure, a new produce market structure, a trail extension linking to the market site, parking, and public restroom facilities that would serve market and the market facilities, the trail users as well. The value-added structure has a classroom, retail space, and more to serve the region. So congratulations. This is a historic day for us in St. Mary's County.
Hello, everyone. We are, as commissioners, are very excited about the groundbreaking of our new vegetable stand, you might say, in the northern part of the county as we move to our new site. Construction will start soon, and hopefully by this summer, maybe even, we'll have everyone move from our library site over to there. So we're very excited. It'll be a nice big venue. It'll be off of the main road. It'll be easier to come to. So be patient. We're on our way. Thank you very much.
This is a great day for us. I would like to thank, for this groundbreaking, I would like to thank the county commissioners, SMATA, to Charles County for their participation, and particularly John Parlett, who has weeks of man hours, if not months, in trying to establish a northern farmers market for St. Mary's County, and all the other members of the St. Mary's County Ag, Seafood, and Forestry Commission who were here before I came on.
This is an exciting day, groundbreaking. Whenever you move from planning to groundbreaking, it's always exciting. Today we're talking about the North County Farmers Market. We're not only moving the market, we're actually moving it to an area where we can greatly expand it. So this is great for our farmers, Amish and Mennonite farmers, our other farmers, and also for our shoppers here in St. Mary's County. This is one of our most popular farmers markets. We get shoppers here from Northern Virginia, from Washington, so we get people into our county visiting the site. So we're very excited about it.
This is such a special day for us. We have worked with farmers in St. Mary's for almost 20 years to make this day a reality. This is going to give us a much better environment for our farmers to sell their products, and a much expanded environment for our consumers to come and shop their wares. We are so excited.
20 years ago, back in 2000, a group of farmers came to St. Mary's County government and asked for a permanent location to set up as a group of farmers to sell their products. They had been on the individuals on the side of the road, on their farms, and they felt like they needed to be together as a cohesive group. So for 20 years, their home has been at the St. Mary's County Library in Charlotte Hall, and we're just so pleased to give them a permanent location.
I'm very excited to be here today and to help bring this project along and get it in the ground and get it open. Thanks again.
Thank you, Commissioner President.
Very nice. It's good to see this happen. Yeah, it's good to see this happen. Great. Okay, next we have a proclamation for School Choice Week. And I'm going to read it here quickly. This will be sent out to the various representatives, St. Mary's County Public Schools, private schools, et cetera, and homeschooling representatives. Whereas all children in St. Mary's County should have access to the highest quality education possible, and St. Mary's County recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing our students to be successful adults. And whereas St. Mary's County is home to a multitude of high-quality public and non-public schools from which parents can choose for their children, in addition to families who educate their children in the home. Educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas St. Mary's County has many high-quality teaching professionals in all types of school settings who are committed to educating our children. And whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of St. Mary's County, do hereby recognize the week of January 24th through the 30th, 2021, as School Choice Week in St. Mary's County, this date, January 26, 2021. Next, we move into our main agenda, which is the College of Southern Maryland State of the College. Are we a little too early for them, or?
Dr. Murphy's on the line, President
she's
Guy.
on.
She's ready.
Okay, if she's ready, that's good. Okay, Dr. Murphy.
I am ready, sir. Thank you.
Very good to see you there, and thank you for being here today, and look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner President Guy and Commissioners, Dr. Bridget. Truly, thanks to all of you, and we're grateful for our strong partners in St. Mary's County. Before we begin, I'd like to just give a few shout-outs. I'd like to give a special thanks to Dr. Scott Smith and the St. Mary County Public Schools Board of Ed for our enhanced dual enrollment partnership this year, which has really helped a lot of kids navigate the pandemic. Dr. Mina Brewster for her guidance throughout all this, Dr. Twanda Jordan for the continued transfer work between our institutions, and really Mr. Chris Casalamas and all of you have been terrific in supporting our ACT Work Ready's community initiative. We're really grateful for this. Our State of the College address this year is a short video, And I'm hopeful that we don't have some of the technical difficulties. Commissioners, you may not realize it, but we couldn't hear the earlier ones. So I don't know a whole lot about video technology. I'm just going to get out of the way and let you enjoy where we've been. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
CSM has long been a strong part of the Southern Maryland economic engine, employing over 1,000 people, earning over $50 million in wages and benefits. The college is known for its stellar transfer programs, nursing and allied health programs, trades and transportation programs, athletic teams, arts, world-ranked robotics team, and so much more. Additionally, 88% of CSM graduates remain in Southern Maryland, and those degrees and certificates add another $238.5 million to our regional income. CSM creates economic mobility for its graduates with real wage gains. This academic year has been like no other. However, CSM was prepared. From March 19th, when the college went remote, through the summer, the CSM community worked quickly to meet the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic.
At CSM, we've always focused on remote learning through the history of the college and had a really good set of core faculty who knew how to do that. So when the pandemic hit, we took what we learned from that and expanded it. So one of the things that faculty did a couple of years ago was something called ORP, which is Online Academic Rigor and Presence. And it's 48 standards from design to delivery to presence to assessment that faculty follow in their online courses. And we broaden that because we're 100% remote. Faculty did massive amounts of training in this as well, and they just did a fabulous job in discussing things that worked and things that didn't, and really provided the best experience for students so that they could learn the objectives for the particular course.
Faculty were well prepared for the move to virtual learning and created 3 modes of learning: web-based, which is all online; real-time technology, which is synchronous technology; and hybrid, which meets both online and in person. Student outreach uncovered that our students were hit hard economically by the pandemic and struggled with technology and basic needs, including mental health.
At CSM, we provide our students no-cost food options in our micropantries located on all campuses. When the pandemic hit and our physical spaces closed, we transitioned to a mobile hawk feeder, which were drive-up distribution events. We gave over 350 students more than 8,000 pounds of food. We also have a laptop loaner program, which to date we have distributed more than 125 laptops to our students.
Counseling Services was really glad to be able to continue our much needed role with our student population, providing individual counseling for students who we were seeing prior to going to remote, and then new students who were needing mental health services and resources. And we were really glad to be able to continue to provide that for our students. We were able to continue our partnerships with Student Life and with Men of Excellence, and we were able to bring mental health specific talent talk topics to our student population, which were very well received and much needed to help with the adjustment and transition that our students were facing during this time.
As part of the pandemic response, the college chose to use a significant part of its own CARES Act funds, as well as raise funds to support our struggling students.
The pandemic had a significant impact on our students. Over 2,100 of our students received over $1.25 million in CARES Act funds. These were emergency funds distributed directly to students and not used to pay for outstanding tuition and fees. The college recognized that students needed additional assistance, so we were able to allocate over $800,000 of institutional CARES Act funding specifically geared towards retention scholarships for the fall and spring semesters.
Well, the CARES Act money helped me in a variety of ways. It opened up so many doors for me me. My grandmother suffered a stroke back in the fall of 2019, so I found myself having to take care for her. Being a student at CSM, I just went through the motions of applying for FAFSA the next spring, as I do in February. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Fortunately, once I received my financial aid letter from CSM, it said I had CARES Act money, and I broke down in tears because I honestly didn't know how I was going to come up with the money to continue my tenure here at CSM. So this CARES Act money has opened so many doors within the last year for me, and I feel honored, and I know I'm not the only one who got it. It truly just touches my heart that CSM found it in their heart to share this money with us, and that the CARES Act was able to do that for people just like me who had no clue how they were going to finish their education.
When the pandemic hit, the CSM Foundation quickly changed focus to raise money for affected students through the Help a Hawk Fund. For the 2020-2021 academic year, the CSM Foundation has already awarded more than $800,000 to both credit and continuing education students. One of the initiatives set forth by Dr. Murphy is the Help a Hawk Scholarship, which covers the cost of one 3-credit course for a student. We've already seen a success rate of 96% of students who were offered that scholarship used it to continue their studies. Our students need our help more than ever right now. No student should have to choose between affording to live and affording to learn.
Community colleges are social justice through education. George Floyd's murder at the end of May brought the horror of anti-Black racism to the forefront of our thinking. Both the Board of Trustees and I issued statements. However, the Office of Equity and Inclusive Diversity took the lead in helping our college community work through their reactions.
So, we had the pandemic in the background of a series of incidents happening, the Ahmaud Arbery case and Breonna Taylor, and then George Floyd happened. And understanding that people were shaken by the very public killing of George Floyd, and that they needed some way to process that, to make sense of how something like that could happen today, we offered CSM's 30-Day Justice Challenge. We challenged people to spend 8 minutes, 46 seconds a day learning about anti-Black racism. And nearly 200 people joined from all over Southern Maryland, and we read articles, websites, poetry. We watched films and TED Talks. We listened to music. But most importantly, we talked to each other. We shared what we were learning and feeling about entering into the experience of Black people in America. It was truly powerful, deep learning.
As a community college, CSM is integral to the regional response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
We've been supporting the Charles County Health Department in their education and outreach efforts to businesses for post-COVID and recovery strategies. We've been very privileged to work with Charles County Health Department to create a training for 15 outreach workers that are servicing the business community, helping them with safety and sanitation protocols so they can return to operations and serve the public adequately. We've also worked with the county to create online on-demand trainings that are free to Charles County businesses, and we're just privileged to be a part of that process.
In March, once we successfully moved our operations to a remote environment, we reached out to our community partners to see how we could help. We offered them the use of our buildings or our parking lots and any COVID-19 related activities. We've hosted blood drives at both the La Plata campus and the Prince Frederick campus, and worked with the Calvert County Health Department to provide a site at our Prince Frederick campus for COVID-19 screening. Through that site, hundreds of citizens have received COVID-19 screening tests.
By late summer, we realized two things. One, the College of Southern Maryland would continue to operate mostly virtually for the remainder of the academic year. And two, the College of Southern Maryland is the front line for our regional economic recovery. CSM had a choice: continue reacting to this pandemic or shape our work to meet the future. We chose the latter. And the result is the CSM New Deal. The CSM New Deal is supported by 3 pillars: learning for economic mobility, the 21st century workforce, and revising the CSM footprint. Let's consider learning for economic mobility. The College of Southern Maryland works to close Southern Maryland's wealth gap by providing learners with high-quality, affordable programs that allow graduates access to high-demand careers right here in the region. CSM is the front line for higher education, and we see the fruit of CSM's work in action as we watch our regional pandemic response. CSM has produced thousands of first responders and healthcare workers and continues to keep that pipeline open. Equity is at the forefront of our work, and in 2019, CSM joined Achieving the Dream, a national network of 277 colleges in 44 states that focuses on institutional transformation and closing equity gaps. This year, CSM launched its Achieving the Dream Action Plan.
There are 3 teams that support the action plan. The first team is Clarifying the Paths, which focuses on student success and making sure the entry points are available for students. The second team is Systemizing the Supports, which focuses on the technology and how students move through the system. And the third team is Demystifying the Finances, so that families and students understand all those things that go into the financial planning aspects of their college education.
CSM has also launched an immediate response to the needs highlighted by the pandemic through 3 initiatives: Charles County Health Department contract training, Getting Southern Maryland Back to Work collaboration with the Southern Maryland Workforce Development Board, and ACT's Work Ready Communities. As a leader in educational technology, CSM has been able to continue supporting our learners and has developed a form of synchronous distance learning called real-time technology, or RTT, that is designed to facilitate a safe return to campus. The 2 other pillars, Revising the Footprint and the 21st Century Workforce, are providing the college with opportunities for innovation. CSM is in the midst of a new facilities master plan, which is providing an opportunity to look differently at how our buildings function to support our mission. What if, instead of asking whether students are college ready, we ask whether the college is student ready? CSM has asked that question. 2/3 of our students are part-time in the paid workforce and have significant family responsibilities. Little in their lives fits into our concept of the traditional college student. That's why CSM is changing. Beginning fall 2021, the majority of CSM classes and programs will be offered in compressed terms year-round.
To support our students in the new 7-week compressed schedule, we've created a comprehensive advising experience for each student. In each academic pathway, we will have student success teams comprised of professional advisors, student support coordinators, faculty advisors, as well as staff from the financial aid office, from cooperative education, and other support services. So as a part of this comprehensive advising experience, we will have professional staff and faculty devoted to the academic success and matriculation of our students at the College of Southern Maryland.
Our students struggle with food insecurity, and we've learned to take our Hawk Feeder program mobile. We've been able to expand it through regional partnerships and have distributed thousands of pounds of food to our students and their families. This work will continue. Most importantly, we have learned that very little money makes a difference in our students' ability to continue their studies, which is critical in these uncertain times. Funding students works. Our goal is to increase to 2,500 scholarships for the beginning of fall 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted every element of our lives, and now is the time to create the future we need for all Southern Marylanders. The road to recovery for our region runs through the College of Southern Maryland, and we stand ready to serve.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. The floor is yours.
Well, I want to thank all of you. Our St. Mary's County partners are so important, and I'm sure you saw a lot of faces on that video from St. Mary's County. We're headed into a new world. I think we can all agree that there is no going back, and we're looking forward. And we look forward to our future together post-pandemic and how we can continue to work together for the betterment of our region. So I am open for any comments or questions that you may have of me.
Commissioners, y'all have any questions? Say.
Dr. Murphy, I thought that was a very excellent presentation. And I can say after, I think it was 10 or 12 years I taught for, back then it was Charles County Community College of St. Mary's, transferring then to CSM, how important it was to get that education out to really adults at that time, because I was the youngster and I was teaching adults who could have been my parents. I think that, you know, the one thing that technology has taught me is how important it is for today's adults to understand how technology works. Because quite frankly, when I was told you're going to have to start teaching through Blackboard online, is the day I quit teaching. Because I wasn't quite there yet, because I always believed I had to be in the pulpit, and I think I taught, over the 24 years, I taught 130 classes standing in the pulpit, but once it came to technology, Todd retired from teaching. So I just want to compliment you on the work that you're doing, the ability to reach out to all 3 counties, attract a wide variety of audience, and making the college as successful as it is today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the St. Mary's County Board of Commissioners for your support last year in our budget unification. I don't think that we would have made the transition into the virtual space as easily as we did had we not had one unified budget. And you're the ones who took the lead on that. And we're immensely grateful to you for it.
There you go. Anyone else?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
No, thank you, Dr. Murphy, especially our continued, as I go to Annapolis and talk to some of the other counties, your college venturing into the trades is outstanding. And believe me, most of the state of Maryland does not have that kind of trades training anywhere. So our initiation going into this, building our campus here in Hughesville, what a great opportunity to put these trades in our area as well as the rest of the state. So I do thank you for continuing to push that area.
Thank you, President Guy.
Anything else, other commissioners? Thank you very much, Dr. Murphy. We appreciate the video is great, and thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next we go right into the Office of the County Attorney decision, the disposition of county-owned surplus real property known as 22695 Old Rolling Road, California, Maryland. Mr. David Weiskopf, our County Attorney, presenting.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
I think I have the next 4.
All right.
Regarding the Old Rolling Road property, that sits on the corner of Old Rolling Road and FDR. It was actually 3 properties. One has a house that has been unlived in for some time, and 2 other properties that don't have anything on them. So now that FDR has been built, we decided, hey, let's go ahead and see if we can sell this house. And the thought process was, let's go ahead and do a BLAP, a boundary line adjustment, to incorporate the 2 parcels into the parcel with the house on it, and also give St. Mary's County a nice right-of-way, you know, in case there has to be anything in the future with FDR. So we're in the process of doing that with the BLAP. There's the one question is whether or not we'll be able to use the septic that is there and the water that is there, or if the health department will make us hook up. Obviously, if the health department makes us hook up, the price will be less, right? Because that'll cost somebody probably $30,000 to $40,000 to make that hookup versus being allowed to use the on-site septic. So we're still figuring that out with the BLAP, but we're getting ready to, if the commissioners so desire, to place it on the market for sale, and it's probably worth somewhere between, I think, $220,000 to $280,000 would be the best guesstimate if the commissioners would allow us to seek the best market price for it we can.
Mr. Weiskopf, that property is then accessed off Old Rolling Road, isn't it? It's that blue house?
Yes, it's the last driveway right before, it's a driveway.
Yeah, it's
almost
a real
right
funky driveway.
The
There's a long stone driveway, get it back to that blue house, so it's been in disrepair for some time now.
It has. If you look at it, you can see trees growing up through the porch, and I think somebody before we put an alarm on it, yanked out a little bit of the copper. Not much, though. You know, I had a builder/realtor look at it, and who was Mr. Ron Lord, who, if the commissioners do desire to sell it, would, you know, be the realtor for it. So it is somewhat in disrepair, but at the same time, as you know, the market is hot right now, and it's a 4-bedroom, and with a little
tender loving care, that house will be good. I mean, you may not want to be that close to FDR, but we have a number of houses who've discussed their FDR board access with us for years, and quite frankly, it also puts it back on the tax rolls for us. So I see no reason we shouldn't proceed.
What's county policy on picking a realtor? Do we?
For this one, I just happened to pick one that I knew was also that used to be a builder, because I wanted somebody to be able to take a look at it and say, this is what it's worth, and the missing copper's not that big a deal. I didn't want to just pick somebody who was just a realtor and wouldn't know how to look at it. But
So we won't get any blowback from other realtors saying?
No, because the next time this comes up, we'll pick, I'll flip a coin or
okay.
There's plenty of good ones out there. I mean, it's no disrespect.
Let's just say we won't flip a coin, but we don't go through this very often, right?
No, we don't. But the next one, we'll pick somebody else. I mean, I don't think we'll have enough property to pick every realtor in St. Mary's County, but I'm happy to share the wealth, as they say.
Now tell me, do you have an offer on this already, or because I see this 285?
I believe he had one that the offer was 235 to 285, but I think that might have went away.
Okay.
But last time I spoke with him, we're just waiting on the BLAP, because once the BLAP's done, it'll tell us, what can happen. But he believes it'll sell 30 days, as soon as we have all the restrictions.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Need a motion? I'll move to approve the disposition of surplus real property described as 22695 Old Rolling Road, California, Maryland, and the adjacent lots 500-1A and 500-1B, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign all related documents necessary to finalize this transaction.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any disapprovals? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Weisskopf.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next one, item C, Commissioners, is the one at Tulagi Place / South Coral Drive Place, the alleyway. We had a public hearing. This is to give it to a nonprofit, the Bay District Fire Department, and we did have a public hearing. We did have, I believe, two people speak, and then one sent an email. One person that spoke was Mr. Keith Fairfax, from the Bay District Fire Department, who was obviously in favor of it. Miss Linda Polinsky from Linda's Cafe was not in favor of it. And then we had an email from a citizen, Mr. Bradley, who spoke against it as well. But if you'll recall, this was an alleyway that apparently was given to the county back in the 50s, and no one ever knew about it. It sits between two properties, the Tulagi Place property and the Bay District property. And it's really of no value to anyone other than those two properties. So if the commissioners were okay with giving it to the nonprofit Bay District, my office would draw up a deed, and that deed would have certain restrictions on it. One, it would grant to Metcom an easement for any of their pipes that are underneath, and it would also grant the other side, Tulagi Place, an easement to use the existing alleyway to ingress and egress and parking, as they currently do. So that's where we are with that one.
Well, I move to approve the transfer of county-owned surplus property described as Tulagi Place, South Coral Place alleyway, located in Lexington Park, Maryland, to the Bay District Volunteer Fire Department, a private nonprofit without consideration, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign all documents necessary to finalize this transaction.
Second. I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. And item D is the decision on the authority having jurisdiction for the emergency medical services billing proposed legislation. This was, if you will recall, we had decided there's two ways to go about ambulance billing, right? One way would be for the county to have legislation to do it, and the other way would be through an MOU with the individual rescue squads to do it. This is just simply another tool in the toolbox, as we say. I believe, I've been working with Mr. Walker and some of the rescue squads to create MOUs, and we would certainly keep going with that. And if this was approved and the MOUs were in place, we wouldn't do anything with this. This is just enabling legislation. And I don't know if there's any questions or concerns. We did have a public hearing, and we did have a couple of comments, and the comments, some were, hey, maybe you shouldn't do anything during COVID. Others were, maybe you should just raise taxes. And some were, I think one was, hey, have you talked to the rescue squads? And Mr. Walker has certainly done that on a regular basis. I don't know if there's questions.
Any questions, commissioners?
Yeah. This is sort of a really interesting scenario we have. And that is, we know that this legislation is being pushed very hard due to the COVID situation we have at hand now and our inability to attract volunteers. And obviously, no one wants to go into a dangerous situation with the, to pick up a disease that, we really are just trying to figure out a way to handle. Simultaneously, we as commissioners have a responsibility to our citizens to provide for their safety. And I've had a lot of people call me on different sides of the street on this one, no pun intended, to whether this is good or whether this is bad. Paramount is, I believe, our responsibility to protect the citizens of the county. Now, is this the right way to do it? I don't know. At the same time, I agree that we're going through the MOU process, and I will use your words, it's a tool in the toolbox. I'm going to support this today, but there's a lot of details that still need, in my mind, to be worked out. Most importantly, it's the volunteers. They've been the heart and soul of this community for as long as I can remember, and I don't want to do anything that's going to hinder our ability to support our volunteers, to attract more volunteers, to make this thing work. If I look at what Dr. Brewster's doing today, and the number of shots that she's been given and giving out, and the number of tests that they're doing and giving out, if it wasn't for our volunteers up there helping out along the way, I really don't know where we'd be. Secondly, when I discuss this with the volunteers, and look at the volunteers, we have this thing called LoSAP. And the concern I have with LoSAP is that if we're going to be bringing in professionals, how do the volunteers accrue points for LoSAP? And that's a very tricky question, because we know this is not going to affect fire, it's going to affect rescue. So where does LoSAP come in to all those volunteers who volunteer if there's going to be professionals going out now and replacing them in their line of duty? And the third piece I have is the financial piece, and that's the fire tax. And that when we get down and go down this path, we're going to have, in some cases, reimbursement, whether it be through the MOU or be through the legislation. But we have the fire tax issue here. And I really don't think it's going to be fair that if we are going to be collecting insurance revenue and it's going into a district's rescue squad pot, that fire tax should remain the same, which would you basically be giving them a double dose of revenues. Now, in some cases, those rescue squads need that. I've listened to the folks out in the 7th, and they seem to be doing pretty well, and they did vote to have their rescue tax increased to the maximum to help pay for their support services. But as we go down this path, there's going to be a revenue on one side, and there may have to be every year a reconciliation of the account to do the fire tax by district. And quite frankly, if you know anything about accounting, the burden that's going to put on Ms. Cudmore to figure this thing out on a district by district on a fire tax district by fire tax district base on a yearly basis, to come back to the commissioners to vote to change it from a penny to a penny and a half, or from a penny to 3/4 of a penny. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a grueling effort. So like I said, I will support this today, recognizing that it's a tool in the toolbox, but all the questions I have just thought of and have other questions of, I'll be bringing back in here before, we're going to sit there and sign the MOU or the legislation and just banter forth. So that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Weisskopf.
Commissioner Morgan, I agree with you. The devil's in the details when it comes to all of this. It is there's multiple phases that need to be looked at, and the volunteer community has done a tremendous job working with Mr. Walker on the MOUs. I do agree it's a tool in the toolbox. I appreciate the efforts that have gone in to ensuring that we have gotten the fire and just the EMS side out to where they're able to respond, whether it's through COVID or just in general looking at the numbers over the past 10 years. I definitely appreciate it. The only thing I'll say, and this way we don't take some heat on it, it's career staffing, not professional. They're all professionals. So, because I know last time you and we also went back and forth on the two words interchangeably. And it is always noticed when you say professional or career. So I want to be on the same page with you as far as saying the word career. That's it. I appreciate the effort by everybody on this.
Mr. Weisskopf, I support the idea of the MOU over the legislation.
Certainly.
Mainly because I think, as we've talked about, there's a lot of questions to be answered. Sometimes I look at fairness. Is it fair that 7th District and the 2nd District, 2nd getting a new firehouse, the 7th getting more paid employees, raise their taxes to the maximum? So those citizens of this county are paying the maximum fire tax. Mm-hmm. Now, it may be this idea of mutual aid. If someone has to run a call in someone else's neighborhood or district, who gets that reimbursement? It can be a little tough, and I could have been there if I'd have known I was going to get paid. I'm not trying to say these are things that need to be worked out. That's why I believe an MOU is more of a pilot type of a program, so we can kind of feel these types of things and figure our way through them before we make it legislation. But with that said, let's understand that COVID-19 has really fouled up everything for everybody. We're being able to meet on Zoom, WebEx. These people on EMS, they can't do that.
No, sir.
They have to get in there and go, and it's very reasonable that people in their of the age bracket that are most susceptible to COVID or they have the greatest risk are those who are least likely to go. Mm-hmm. So another reason I support the MOU is maybe we can get through COVID. Lord knows, it's, we got the vaccine. Hopefully it's going to get taken care of. But the key gets to be is we can kind of field these questions about, is it fair for one district to have the maximum tax and another district not? Because it's all mutual aid, co-related across the county. Is it fair to have someone who has the ability to respond quicker to gain a larger share of the revenues, whatever they may be? We've heard numbers of 1.6 million, and that's great if we can get to those numbers. So I guess I'll support this idea, but are we actually supporting sending the legislation up?
That's what it is. It would still have to get through Annapolis. But I completely agree, and I think Mr. Walker, who's standing by online as well, we're moving forward with the MOUs. First, because it's quicker. We could do it tomorrow once everybody, agrees. But second, as you said, everybody buys into it. Everybody signs off on it, right?
Well, is the legislation necessary then at this point?
The question is going to be, I'll put it this way, I believe that if we can get the MOU signed, let's say, in the next 6 weeks, you can pull the legislation.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Oh, and is that correct? I'm correct, aren't I?
Even with the legislation, though, Commissioner Morgan, are we committing to doing this and installing it without having figured out all these?
I don't think we'll be able to figure out all the details. But we have a legislative session that goes from now till sometime in April. You're going to have to get the legislation posted by sometime in March for crossover because we're already late, and they got, Lord only knows how many bills, Randy, 900 we're playing with right now with Mako?
Yes.
So I think it doesn't hurt us to put the bill forth and give Steve and the rescue squads time to work through the details. And then, if fortunately it works, pull the legislation back and give everybody in Annapolis one less thing to worry about. But I think that with the...
Tell me this, if it goes through Annapolis and it is approved, when does it take effect? And when does it have to be something that finance and county attorney and county
I think that what goes back is it provides the legislation, if I'm wrong, correct me, the legislation provides the commissioners the opportunity to use the legislation. It doesn't dictate they have to use the legislation.
Correct. And what it does, without any doubt, is it says that the commissioners are the authority having jurisdiction over the rescue squads for purposes of EMS billing, is the way it was originally phrased. And that's because, in, I believe, the insurance article, remember that 15-138, states that the only people that can bill are either the rescue squads themselves or the local government if they are the authority having jurisdiction over them. And since we're a commissioner county, we are not. And like most code or most charter counties, that's written into their charter that they are that. So again, this just harkens back to us being one
Well,
of
I think there's...
What's that, John?
I'm sorry, Mr. Weisskopf. I thought you were done. I think there's two things to look at here. Is one that beyond our finance department, where we'd be delving too far into what's already been established as mutual aid with who runs where and how they reimburse each other. The rescue squads, the fire departments have that all figured out very well. They don't need us meddling in how they do their mutual aid. They work that out great. And as far as the rescue taxes go and the fire taxes, that's been something they've been dealing with for years, and it all balances itself out to a certain extent. And that's not something that we would actually get involved in with the mutual aid portion. That's their day-to-day business operations. That's why they're independent corporations. So I don't think we have a burden on that portion. Now, as far as the EMS billing and the possibility that, you know, there needs to be a balance of whether tax revenue is lessened on the offset. You know, I think those are things that Mr. Walker, well, I know these are things Mr. Walker is working out with the EMS community as to who's going to have the supplemental staffing, because I think that's the biggest focus right now for the EMS billing is the supplemental staffing that has been increasing significantly, not just due to COVID, but generally speaking, the do not response rate overall in the county. And that's something that's been a problem for, you know, many years and is only getting worse. And I think the highlight is what almost every commissioner has said at this table is the most vulnerable population are the ones not going out. Mind you, the most vulnerable population is 65 and older. So when you look at it from that aspect, our volunteer force is primarily 55 to 65 years older. It's tough to run a volunteer force on that. Now, we also have the moms and the dads that are at home now, which has exacerbated the issue because kids aren't in school. I totally anticipate that it won't be as bad as it is now. And if you look at the numbers, it's bad in Charles with the volunteers. It's bad in Calvert. In fact, there's some places that in Calvert, they're asking for 24/7 supplemental staffing because they're just taxed out. So this isn't just an isolated issue here. I do agree with my colleagues sitting at the table that I do believe it's going to get measurably better. I don't know that it'll ever be 100% based on the statistics previously given with ambulances not getting out, but I do believe that there's a give and take on each side. Now, the other side of this is with the MOUs, having this legislation in place. It's completely 100% toolbox. It's there. If it needs to be there, it needs to be there. If we don't need to use it, it sits there, it gets dust on it, and it just stays. But if we ever run into a legal challenge with any of the insurance providers in the future with an MOU, and they disagree that an MOU is the way to go, and you want to have some sort of fight, well, at least on the other side of this, retrospectively looking at it, we'll have the legal means to say, oh, okay, you don't like the MOU, but we have legal authority to do it here. So we can transition. So I think this sets everything up for success. It's not an undermining, because this MOU, I've followed the iterations of it, and let me tell you, the engagement from the EMS community is amazing with the questions that they're asking and the input that's there, and they've brought a lot to the table, and Mr. Walker's done a great job. So what I'll say is I view this as a toolbox, a tool in the toolbox for the system, and the MOUs need to move forward. I think that is the best way to do this, and I'm glad that the progress is there and the push is there and the engagement's there, but I think without this, we lose a little bit of advantage over the corporations that are out there that may not agree with the MOUs. And, just in case what happens if the system grows in the future and somebody decides, well, we're dropping all these MOUs and now we have an entire system that's in place that collapses. And I'm talking maybe 5 years down the road, who knows? So it's one of those plan now and be prepared for later versus trying to do the same thing that we're doing now, repeating mistakes in the future again. That's kind of how I look at it. So I just appreciate you hearing me out on this one.
I will say again, and I'll be very emphatic, if we go down this path and we do have to provide a contractor to provide these services, that contract be competitively procured through our system to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake at the game.
Yeah,
of course.
Agree. No.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I agree with that, Commissioner. I think somebody mentioned the word pilot program, right? We've got to start somewhere. All these numbers are unknown. The thought, I think, in speaking with Mr. Walker, Dr. Bridget, Jeanette Cudmore, and even Brandon Hayden, the procurement officer, is to maybe piggyback the first year onto another one, say from like Dorchester County or Caroline County, that was competitively bid, and that by law, so what we're thinking is we would piggyback for a year, see where we are. Because my understanding on these is, I think, these third-party billing systems, they charge roughly 6%, right? So, and I think they're kind of all the same. The question is, which one do you work best with? Which one is the most responsive? And so if we piggyback for a year, we'll see, and then, we'll have answers to all, a lot of questions, how much money's coming in, who's buying into it, who's not, and that way we would be able to, then, put out our own RFP if needed. But I think right now we would most likely piggyback.
What was that famous line in the movie, knowledge is good?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I think something we got to really look at here also, Commissioner O'Connor and I went to the 7th District over a year ago prior to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because of COVID that they really need to raise their fire tax and to get paid EMTs in. Mm-hmm. What really happened in the end was they just couldn't meet the calls because their people on daytime calls were in their mid-70s to low 80s. That was the age group that was doing the daytime calls. And they couldn't handle it much longer. One guy was sitting there with a back brace on and said, I'm a primary driver, and I get up, I got to put a back brace on first and put my teeth in and all that stuff and run out the door to drive the ambulance and help them load patients on, and I'm 77 years old. And I thought, wow, this is a real problem. And Commissioner O'Connor, he was there, and we recognized that, and I told him, I said, well, you're going to have to raise your fire tax, your tax, in order to get these paid EMTs if you can't find any volunteers. And that was the biggest problem. And the biggest thing is they have plenty of volunteers in the evening after work, but unfortunately most people nowadays are working families, especially now with all the children at home and everything. You're right. It's even getting more and more difficult to get the volunteers to show up. So our daytime call volume was down. The 7th District's been carrying a huge load. They've been responding to all the other districts at times during the daytime because of their paid EMT. And this has got to stop. We can't afford to keep doing this and putting all the pressure on them. And raising the fire tax, EMS tax, that's one of the billing purposes. But this medical billing has been going on for many, many years, not just in the state of Maryland. Several counties have been having it for years, but throughout the country. It's not something new. And I'm sure they'll be able to find an easy way to do this and supplement, hopefully, paying and keep our fire tax down as low as possible. So thank you, Mr. Weiskopf, for this, and I support the billing. So,
Mr. President, I move to request the adoption of a new public local law of St. Mary's County that states that the Commissioners of St. Mary's County are the authority having jurisdiction over the provision of services provided by rescue squads and advanced life support, emergency medical services, or EMS, units or entities in St. Mary's County, sign a letter of support to the delegation, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign letters of support to the House and Senate committees for the hearings on this bill.
Second.
I have first and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Wisecup.
Thank you, Commissioners. And last on my list is legislation. Today, I will give you a legislative update, and as you can see, we're starting to get inundated with, now in the thick of it, because it changes every day, so we had to do a supplemental memo number 2 for you all, since things change by the time.
And real quick, before you get totally
certainly.
started, Commissioner Morgan and I spent hours on the phone last night going through a lot of these with MACO and the Rural Coalition. And of course, tomorrow we go through the general, I'm on the Land Use Committee, he's on the Educational Committee, and we have hundreds of bills the last couple of weeks that we've been going through, spending hours and hours deciding whether to oppose, support, or support with amendment, et cetera. So we stay heavily involved in these, and this gives you a chance, to the public, to see these right here locally and go through them, understand what we're supporting, not supporting, whatever. And so if you have any information you want to provide to us, please email us.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Weisskopf?
Thank you, sir. As Commissioner Morgan said, they're already up to 900, and sometimes we follow bills that we're like, wow, this would really be bad if it passed, but there's probably no chance in heck that it would pass, right? But you just don't know. I mean, there's, I know the Bar Association is looking at one. They're talking about providing attorneys in eviction cases, right? The way they do in criminal cases, and that'll certainly be a big change if that passes. But who knows? So, regardless, we keep an eye on lots of them. To get started with this, we'll first discuss the House bill, the liquor license. Delegate Morgan came on here last meeting and asked for support. What he proposes is to give a 1-year no fee for your liquor license if you're a bar or a restaurant. He hasn't put it into a proposal yet, into a bill, and at the last meeting I was tasked with taking a look to seeing if the governor's order would allow the local liquor board the authority to do it without this Annapolis, and my research shows that yes, they do have it, and they met I think 2 days after the commissioner meeting, and it was the first time they had looked at it. So basically they said, yeah, that sounds good. I think there was a discussion of why wouldn't we, open it up and pass it on to all liquor license holders, stores as well. But what they said is they wanted to contact they wanted their attorney or Ms. Hildebrand to contact the comptroller to make certain that if they passed it and then the emergency went away, that the people wouldn't then get billed for it. But to me, it's an annual license. If you waive the annual license,
it's done for the year.
Exactly.
You've done it for the year.
Yeah. I don't run the world, so.
No, you're right.
Neither do we.
So what's happening is, my guess is they will probably do something at their next meeting. But it's the open form of government, right? I mean, this was their first look at it. It's not like you can go behind the scenes and work it all out. So at their meeting was the first time they saw it. So they're like, okay, let us digest it. And my guess is at the next meeting they'll probably do something.
Tell me. I think it's very interesting that the governor declared liquor stores essential businesses, because I guess it's very important that we wouldn't want anybody not to be able to get their liquor. But I guess my point is that they didn't have the same impacts that, say, restaurants or bars who were forced to close down or to go to 25% or 50% capacity. So is it fair to say you should include those? I mean, are they looking at that?
I don't think we should include liquor stores.
Well, I mean,
because they didn't get hurt as bad.
Right.
The liquor board's the one that's going
to. If the liquor board, wants to make it fair to everybody, that's certainly within their prerogative.
Not true. That's true, but that's not. at least the person I talked to who owns a liquor store, he was not hurt.
Right. I've talked to a bunch of liquor store owners, and no one's been hurt yet that I can.
No,
I've
no,
not heard anybody hurt.
None of them have been hurt.
Well, I guess when we're forced to stay at home, maybe we'll have a
Now, a bar, restaurant, things like that, yeah.
line every now and then.
Right.
So maybe it did increase sales. But I guess my point gets to be is, who's going to make this decision? The liquor board?
If the liquor board certainly could. If the liquor board, if the liquor board doesn't at their next meeting, because they only meet once a month, so I guess it must be their
sometime in
February meeting. Then obviously, if Delegate Morgan goes forward with what he wants, he's told you he's doing bars and restaurants.
Right.
The liquor board, like I say, could decide to widen it, could decide not to.
Well, here's my disconnect. I got this thing here that says, hey, commissioners, we're asking for your support, and I support Commissioner Morgan with this. But I get,
He's a delegate. Right.
Morgan. Commissioner Morgan. Delegate. But I guess my point gets to be
He met
is,
both you delegates someday.
what
We both might be delegates.
difference does it make if we support this and the liquor board doesn't, or does something different?
Right. I mean, my guess is Delegate Morgan wouldn't go forward with his bill if the liquor, because the governor, through his executive emergency orders, has given this authority to the liquor board. So.
Okay, so now when the legislature comes in, do they trump the liquor board?
Liquor board is a function of the state, remember, not the county.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
It's a state function.
Okay, I got it.
I think this is a good piece of legislation to have. It's another tool in the toolbox. While I have full faith that the Alcohol Beverage Board is going to do what they should do to help the businesses, but if it staggers on or it becomes too much of a lengthy process or a decision's not made or they decide not to go in that direction, I think that this is a good piece of legislation to have to say, hey, look, we need a decision on this. We need to move forward. We need to help these businesses. And without it, we're sort of in a position where they could just say no, and they're going to try and do it widespread. Now, I don't think that's their intent, but I just think it's a good tool to have in the toolbox, and just in case.
So the other part is the fiscal note on this, and if I remember reading some time ago, the fiscal note is it costs the county about $75,000 to waive this fee is $75,000 out of general revenue, and I think it hits Leonardtown for like $10,000 or $15,000. I haven't talked to Mayor Burris or any of the council folks up there to see if that $10,000 or $15,000 hit is going to hurt them or not.
I did share the information with Lachelle McKay, Commissioner Morgan, and it was really informational that this bill was there, so there was no response, positive or negative from them.
I wanted to say, I thought there was an email somewhere from Louisa out of Delegate Morgan's office that he had spoken with Mayor Burris and believed that they would be on board with it.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly.
That was my understanding.
Right. My understanding too.
Right. And obviously, it would, if they did go to all liquor stores, it would be a higher amount that it would affect us by.
Yeah, but that's it. So we have two options, as I said. We can support Delegate Morgan's bill, and/or the liquor board could rule next month what they want to do. At that point, the bill's mox nix.
Right.
Kind of like the last thing we were talking about. If they fix it locally, we don't have to worry about it up there.
Yeah.
All right. I move to support the proposed legislation to give St. Mary's County bars and restaurants a one-year waiver from paying their liquor license fee as proposed by Delegate Morgan, and to approve and authorize the Commissioner President to sign letters of support to the delegation and to the House and Senate committees for hearings on this bill.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. And on the next page, I was just going to briefly discuss some of the St. Mary's County bills that have been dropped. House Bill 527 regarding the St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission on equal treatment. If you recall, the commission wanted to update it as to what federal law was, I think for maybe gender identity and sexual orientation. What the delegation did was just change the language to all people, which would be the same thing. Right, so House Bill 528 would be the repeal of the impact fee and authorization of a building excise tax. Now, what they did when they dropped this one is they took out the grandfathering for for some reason. So what happens is this would take effect, I believe, if it passes, July of 2023. And the impact fee would go away, and then you'd have the authorization to adopt a excise tax. So what we would do is my office would tickle this in, a year out in 2022 to start the public hearing process so that when the impact fee went away and the excise tax was ready, we'd have the ordinance ready to drop so we wouldn't miss a beat. That way, so, there wouldn't be a period of time where we didn't have the impact fee or the excise tax. And we had also wanted to do some grandfathering for people that were in the building process, and they didn't do that. But as you all are probably aware, builders are very savvy, well, like when the critical area, law hit, all of a sudden you saw little outlines of houses being built on, along the water, because, they know what's happening. So if this is going to change things, we'll, if, the excise tax would be more than the impact fee, we'll see a flurry of building permits in 2022, right? Before, I'm certain.
It doesn't take place for 2 years.
Right, gives everybody time.
Yeah, and it doesn't need a grandfather.
That's correct, too.
I agree.
That's one way to look at it. So that they did drop the gaming administration of bingo licenses. That one looks fine. They dropped the alcoholic beverage one, to put the amount of the permit fee for distillery on-site consumption permit. And there's also a law enforcement hearing board for civilian members, and I'll discuss that memo too because Delegate Morgan is asking for a letter of support. And to let you know, Dr. Bridget did speak with Sheriff Cameron, and Sheriff Cameron is in support of this. So we'll talk about that in a second. And then we're tracking a bunch of bills already. We're tracking 4. Oh, yes, sir.
Does this mean we should assume that the other requests that we submitted are not being taken forward by the delegation, or they just haven't gotten to it yet, such as the Metcom?
I'm hoping they just haven't gotten to them yet.
Okay.
That was back in, Delegate Morgan said that back to draft writing late last week.
Okay.
So things are happening.
Very good.
Thank you for bringing that up, though.
Keep going.
Okay, and then so next page, page 3, we're tracking certain bills. The first 4 are IT bills, and we've let you know that MACO supports MACO supports 3 out of 4. On the next page, there's 3 water bills that MACO opposes 2. The third one, they don't have a position on yet. And these are ones that we're keeping an eye on. Really, it's the third one, I think, that would possibly, give us some new inspection responsibilities.
Are you talking about the environmental rights, or?
No, those first. Yeah, the 204, 324, that's the one that basically says it's citing for special hazard areas, right? That if, when we reviewed something, it was going to it's going to disturb more than an acre of grading, stormwater, and it happens to be in a special hazard area like a floodplain, we would then have to send NOI, which means notice of intent for a general permit. Thank you. Yeah. We would have to send that up to DNR for them to take a look at. But so it would possibly be more.
I can say we discussed this, Commissioner Guy and I discussed this a little bit last night in our 2.5-hour lovely MACO pre-meeting,
which I appreciate.
You're quite welcome. So we can go tomorrow night for 2 more hours.
Another couple hours.
But the gist of it is, some of this is an imposition. Some of the rural counties feel this is an imposition to us that you're going to mandate something up the road, and then you're going to tell the counties you got to go do all the work, but then you got to turn all the work into them so they can play judge and jury on top of this. And as importantly, as we brought up a couple of weeks ago, this is going to get into this Tier 2 and Tier 3 issues here, particularly as we've started to discuss relative to, this water flow 4.0 going into the river, and how's this going to affect all the rural counties? And is this just another overreach by the state? So I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a healthier discussion about this tomorrow night.
Oh, certainly, because MACO did send it down to us and say, what are your thoughts? Yeah. And we sent it to John Dietrich at DPW&T and also to Bill Hunt, and they both, voice concerns that looks like we're getting stuck with something else, right?
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on it. And let's see, we have, we're keeping an eye on Senator Bailey's aquaculture lease applications. He sponsored that bill. There's a couple property tax for veterans that we're keeping an eye on. Mako opposes one of them, has no position yet on the other.
I think Mako's going to, if I remember correctly, they're going to oppose this first one, too.
They sort of oppose all bills that are involved with
anything
to do with veterans.
and a fiscal note, yeah.
We already had an argument on that already. Nobody else supports.
And then we had we keeping an eye on one that Mako opposes regarding mold inspection. Of course, that would, Lugum would probably have to get more inspectors, right? And they'd have to train somebody in how to do mold. So that'll be something to see. And then we have the Budget and Reconciliation and Financing Act of 2021, which I believe would put more of the cost of SDAT on.
This is the governor's bill, and I think we had a long discussion on this last night, and I believe Secretary Schultz has come to us also for support on this. And it appears to me that based on the discussions that Commissioner Guy and I have been having with our colleagues, this is a bill worthy of support. Now, it'll be discussed at length tomorrow.
I think there's two different bills.
Yeah.
This is House Bill 589, Senate Bill 493, which is the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act of 2021. And what you're talking about, I believe, is in memo number 2, Senate Bill 496.
I apologize.
Oh, no, just trying to keep it straight.
93,
so
96,
this Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act is Governor Hogan's BRFA revives an attempt that was unsuccessful to shift costs of the State Department of Assessments and Taxation onto county governments. The BRFA proposes to increase counties' reimbursement of SDAT functions. Let's see. Since 2013, counties have reimbursed the state for 50% of these costs, but the BRFA proposes to increase the local share to 60% in fiscal 2022, which would swell to 90% by fiscal 2026 and each year thereafter. Mako's position is pending on this bill.
Well, Todd Morgan's position is no.
Randy Guy's position is no.
Right.
So, I don't know where Mako's going to be or the RMC is going to be, but, we've had this SDAT stuff shoved down our throats before. There's legislation out there that could create even more costs to us. So I would say we would write a letter of opposition to HB 589 SB 493.
Is that a motion, Commissioner?
That's a motion.
Second.
A first and second, we're opposing this bill?
Hold on, discussion real quick. So we're going to oppose passing down any, what we're going to oppose?
We're going to oppose the fact that we will have to pay more of the SDAT allowance over the next few years. So essentially the State Department of Assessment and Taxation, we split the cost, and now what this bill is saying is you guys get to get more of the burden.
Okay, I think I understand that part, Commissioner Moore, but I guess what we're opposing is going to be any passing of any fees down to us?
That's correct.
That's correct.
It's my understanding you're actually opposing bill, House Bill 589, Senate Bill 493.
Right.
And you would authorize Commissioner President to sign letters of support to the delegation and to the House and Senate committees for hearings on this bill.
Letters of opposition.
Right. To oppose it.
Is that the only thing in the bill, though? The SDAT? I'm sorry, I haven't read it, but you gave us a whole pile of stuff.
Oh, no,
But again, if that's the case, then I'm good. But there's nothing else in there that we're opposing.
I'm just going on with a little bit of discussion we've had at Mako on this. I'm opposed to an unfunded mandate coming on top of
Listen, I agree with you. I oppose unfunded mandate. That's what this is all about.
Yes, it is, other than another part of it talks about educational trust fund established.
But the thing is, we oppose the whole bill if we...
But the gist of the whole bill is the SDAT cost being put onto us.
Okay.
And the letters of opposition.
Yes.
So.
All right, well,
when you read these bills, anything that is capitalized is the change to existing legislation. And that is where it says here, you're going to get the joy of paying more.
90% by 2026.
Yeah, by 2026, yes.
Any other questions, commissioners, on that bill?
I think there's a vote.
You have a first and a second.
There's a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. And that takes me to memo number 2, which is much thinner. We're keeping an eye on House Bill 655, which is a statewide bill to change how county commissioner districts are voted. It would be that, instead of a countywide vote, which is the way St. Mary's County is, it would go to a district vote, that meaning only people in your district could vote for you.
Well, tell me, it's been my experience that people call me from all over the county. So if someone from Commissioner Colvin's district calls, would I'd say, hey, that's Tall Timbers, you got to talk to Colvin? That's not in my district. I mean, what's that supposed to mean for us?
Well, I mean,
we only take care of the constituents in our district.
No, I'm certain you commissioners would not do that. But.
I mean, by all technicalities, though, in the letter of a bill, that's exactly what it would mean. Just like Matt Morgan represents the north end of the county, so he doesn't handle legislative matters so much at the south end of the county. He just doesn't. He deals with the north end of the county, a totally different dynamic, and that's basically what it would come down to now. The share and the workload and the partnerships that go on, I don't think that would go too much by the wayside, but you can't speak for the next dynamic in what that board would be. If you look around the state, and mind you, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a note here with this bill, but if you look around the state and you see how people and representatives act, it's what bacon can I bring home to my district? What can I bring home to this particular area? And I think this actually creates more division than unity for our county. Right now, every commissioner is voted by everybody in the county, and while we have to live in that district, we represent everybody in the county. We're not territorial, so to speak, over the districts that we represent. Just like Commissioner Hewitt said, somebody from my district could call them, which happens frequently. People across the county call all of us, and we deal with it. I think it sets a layer of bureaucracy, and quite frankly, the tenor behind it is insulting, and how it was presented. Furthermore, I'll say on a different note, I took it as an insult to my colleague of how it was phrased, that he couldn't properly represent the people of Lexington Park and Great Mills because he worked hard and diligently over 30 years of his life and was successful. I mean, and on the counter side of that, I look at it for me. There was a point in my time in life where I was making $15, $16 an hour, if that, working part-time, eating noodle ramen, and, doing 80 hours a week on odd jobs here and there. So I could make it. And then finally, years and years later, I'm able to afford a single-family home, and I live in the north end of the county. So because I can't afford a 150-acre farm, can I not represent the farmers in the north end of the county? Adversely speaking, I mean, I think on top of that, it sets a bad precedent for what Delegate Crosby had said, which is, how about Mr. Steny Hoyer, who owns a magnificent home in this county, and but the people in Prince George's County, they don't have homes on water, so he's almost alienated his own party in this one. And I think even more so, what it's saying is it's not going to help any sort of racial tensions. I don't think it's going to help solve party politics that we're seeing nationally, because all you're going to do is create a divide. I mean, that's what'll happen. You will have that infighting representing districts based on this. And I have to oppose this on the fundamental beliefs that I just said. To me, it's just the wrong time. Plus, on top of that, I think he's subverting the system. This is really directed at St. Mary's County, and I've spoken to counterparts across the state, and they're not happy with it at all. I'm hoping that MACO will oppose. I'm hoping that MML will oppose, because this will adversely affect Leonardtown as well. But either way, this should have been brought before the commissioners. This should have been a local bill, and it should have been voted on in a processes that was there. And that's just my personal opinion, whether everybody feels differently or not. That's just me. But to leverage a bill on an insult of an individual who's worked their life's work to get where they are, I think that's a low blow. And to me, that's just all the wrong reasons. So anyway, with that being said, I just wanted to make that comment. So thank you.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. As I said previously, it's one of the most hypocritical statements that could have been made when President Biden is calling for unity and the bill calls for isolation and division. If we are going to be dictated to by Annapolis as to how we vote, let's please remember that a few years ago, one of the opportunities to vote in this county was to go from commissioner form of government to code home rule. And to be in my 11th year sitting in this chair, that vote has been turned down twice by the citizens of the county. So if we're going to be dictated to from Annapolis as to how we vote, this is no different in my mind than the citizens. If citizens want this, they can vote on it. But this shouldn't be legislation that is enacted upon us when they're going to tell you how you're going to be able to vote. But the form of government that we have today might have to be changed in the future. That's left to the citizens, but not to the voters by district. So as I agree with the commissioners so far that we should strenuously object to this. I know the rural council met last night and they're not in favor, and I know that MACO will be taking a position on this tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel that there is, from what I understand from my colleagues around the state so far, there is not support for this bill.
And I agree with Commissioner Morgan on that, because our last night, House Bill 655, 656 was discussed, and Mr. Sanderson, who's our director of MACO, sort of thought that this doesn't have a chance of getting a positive vote. So with that said, I definitely would oppose it, and it's too bad it's gotten this far and we don't have better communication with our delegation on this, but that's the way it is.
Well, let's not say it's our delegation.
No, one delegate.
It's a delegate who has gone around local legislation to make it a statewide bill.
True.
Certainly, and it would have effects for, our neighbors, like Charles County.
Well, Calvert County, too.
Yeah, all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are we looking for a motion then to oppose this and send letters and?
If the commissioners would like to.
Has this bill
identified I make a motion to oppose this legislation.
I'm sorry, Commissioner?
Has Delegate Crosby identified?
I said I make a motion to oppose the legislation.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor.
Got it.
Mr. Hewitt.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Has Delegate Crosby identified any irregularities or things that need to be corrected by this bill? Is there somebody not being represented? Is there somebody being disadvantaged? Is there somebody being disenfranchised? What is the?
You'd have to ask him, Commissioner.
I mean, we don't get any justification for the bill.
No.
It's just like, this is my idea of what I think we should do, and we should do it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming this is a statewide bill, because if it was a local bill, the rest of the delegation wouldn't support it, but that's just my assumption.
But again, I think he should identify why it's necessary to change. And has that been done? That's my question to you.
Not to this office.
Okay, thank you.
There will be a fiscal and policy note at some point, but it has not been made available yet.
I'll second the motion.
Well, I think what I can add to that, on top of that, is that, Delegate Crosby, one of his, he was interviewed, and basically he said that it doesn't give, the way the county's set up now, it doesn't give Democrats a seat at the table, and that he doesn't believe that county-wide votes give black people a chance to sit at the table. I mean, that's an actual quote from him, that there's only been one black county commissioner. So he feels that redistricting will give minorities a chance to sit at the table and give Democrats at least 2 seats on the table. So that's basically what he said. So, I mean, if you're looking for some other route behind it, that is a part of it. You know, if you want the exact quote, watch Sunday in the Park. You know, that's where he took a low blow at Commissioner Morgan. So I think that's a part of it as well. I strongly disagree with his sentiments on that. I think that you don't need to change the system for people to, in this aspect, to go ahead and succeed. I think if you want to succeed, you can. And quite frankly, if you run the race and get there, we've had many people throughout the United States that have got elected that are minorities, and they've been very, very successful. And that includes women, black, white, Hispanic, however you want to look at it, and all of them, meaning women that are white. So, you know, I don't think this is the solution. I think you actually create a bigger divide. And, yeah, that's it anyway. So if you want the full thing, you can look at Sunday in the Park, and you'll see his comments.
Well, I guess, Mr. Weiskopf, I guess it would, if we're going to go anywhere with this or expects it, that Delegate Crosby either comes before us and gives us an explanation why it's necessary, or he goes ahead and writes us a letter, gives us some type of something in writing so we can say, because, again, I'm not going to get into watching it on an internet or something like that.
My office can certainly reach out to his office and ask for that.
Yeah, what's missing? What's happened? You know, why is it unfair?
So just to clarify, Commissioners, the full motion would be to oppose House Bill 655 and authorize the Commissioner President to sign letters of opposition to the delegation to the House and Senate committees for hearings on this bill.
That was the motion. I second it.
Okay, we have a first and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. And next is Delegate Crosby House Bill 656, Election Law, Early Voting Centers, Accessibility by Public Transportation. The bill requires that in a county that has a fixed route public transportation service, each early voting center must be located not more than 500 feet from a public transportation station or stop.
Well, here's another one. Are people disadvantaged? Do we know if they're...
What would be the impact to our county from this?
I don't know. Well, we talked about transportation, and Dr. Bridget, maybe at some point in time you can give us an update. But, you know, Lexington Park, I truly believe, needs its own bus system, or at least a bus that people know will be here every 20 minutes or whatever the interval is, whatever that works out to be. Because right now I think our bus system, STS, is countywide. Mm-hmm. So if someone were to say, hey, I want to get to the local voting center, I know sometimes that bus, people want to go to Walmart, have to go across the bridge first, and then come back from Calvert County and go to Walmart. So I guess my thought would be is that for something like this, we need to make sure that the bus system would support the idea and that people could get to it in a reasonable fashion.
I'm sure that during this early voting period that our Director of Public Works and Transportation could put a bus stop at the firehouse during that time period. That's my thought. I mean, I don't know. John, I agree. Can you possibly do that? I hate to bring you into the conversation, but...
He's here.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's possible the issue is crossing the road too for the northbound traffic, but it's certainly possible. And
you don't have a light there, do you?
Yeah, one thing we did do during the early voting, it was possible for people to ask the bus to divert into the fire department itself, which, and that also happens for people that want to take the commuter bus into DC. I mean, it's There's like one or two people that do that, but it's possible to do
You
that.
actually
It
did
has
that
to be
during early
arranged
voting?
ahead of
They
time.
diverted the bus in there?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to handle it, but if the legislation requires a stop, we'll put a stop in. But we have a method to deal with it now, which is people just call the dispatcher and say they'd like to be able to divert into the fire department.
Oh, good. It's like a good solution to me. I don't know what.
I don't know that. It sounds like we already got the solution. I don't know that it needs legislation. I mean, this is a statewide one. I mean, do we really need to take a position on this one, or
I agree.
can we see how this plays out once the data actually comes in for what, this is? I don't think there's much data on it, and then I think we have the other bill for early voting centers. So I think taking a look at that, do we actually need to take a position on this one right now? I mean,
No, this Commissioner David Weisskopf here. This was certainly just for informational purposes, just to let you aware of what another, one, that would affect us, and two, what a local delegate, is sponsoring. So we can certainly just keep a weathered eye on it and keep you abreast of what's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good.
So what is the presently no position on this right now?
Yeah, I
That
don't
we're
think
looking at?
Mako's going to take a position on it either. I don't think Mako's going to have a position on it anytime soon either.
They're not
so.
sure. Well, he's feeling that it's probably going nowhere, but anyway, right now, no position from us will be just fine, I suppose.
That's fine.
Thank you, Commissioners. And now we're going to discuss Senate Bill 496, House Bill 612, which was the Relief Act, providing certain financing during fiscal years 21 and 22. I know Mr. Casalemas, who I believe was here in the audience earlier, was contacted by the Maryland Secretary of Commerce asking for support of these bills. I believe one is actually being heard today, and the other one is being heard on the 4th of February. Angela Blondino, the paralegal that handles legislation, did reach out to somebody in Schultz's office and was told that they would still, we could still email them a letter, even though the window for, uploading and submitting the letter of support or opposition has passed. So I don't know if Mr. Casalemas wanted to chat about it. No, he does not.
Commissioner Morgan, this is the bill you referenced earlier.
Right.
Yeah, this is the bill. This is the $1 billion governor's aid package to the state. Secretary Schultz has contacted us about this. I do know it was brought up last night at the Rural Council. It'll be discussed again at MAKO tomorrow, and my feeling is that MAKO will be supporting this bill based upon discussions with my colleagues, Mr. Sanderson, et cetera. So we can wait to see what MAKO's decision will be. But I think the governor has a decent bill in front of us. I think that it addresses many needs and concerns, not only for our citizens of St. Mary's County, but the rest of the state. And, I have no trouble saying yes, but if we want to wait to see what MAKO's position is tomorrow.
And like I said, I'm sorry to interrupt, the House bill is set for February 4th, and the commissioners meet February 2nd, right? So we could certainly, take a position at that time, and you would certainly know MAKO's position by then.
And I believe also this is sponsored by both the President and the House, the President of the Senate and head of the Senate, or head of the delegate.
That's my understanding.
Speaker of the House.
Yes, Speaker of the House, yes.
So Mr. Ferguson and them are behind this too, so. Put it this way, if they're both behind in Annapolis, the chances of it failing are slim.
Our support right there.
Probably. But again, just letting you aware, keeping you aware of it.
Right.
And then House Bill, the last one is House Bill 525, which is specific to St. Mary's County regarding a law enforcement hearing board to have civilian members. Civilian members that have taken the 40-hour, police class, so.
Does Sheriff Cameron have a position on that?
Yes, he does, and he is supportive of it. Thank you for, Dr. Bridget spoke with him as well. So Delegate Morgan is supportive of it, and Sheriff is supportive. Thank you. Sheriff Cameron is supportive of it.
Then I would say, I would make a motion to support both Commissioner or Delegate Morgan and Sheriff Cameron.
Second.
And authorize the President
And
to
authorize the
sign.
President to sign the papers, blah, blah, blah.
And I'm sorry, who was the second?
Commissioner Hewitt.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Hewitt.
Okay, we have a first.
The formal motion would be to support House Bill 525 and approve and authorize Commissioner-President Guy to sign letters of support to the delegation to the House and Senate committees for hearings on this bill.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
And that ends my performance today. Thank you, Commissioners.
Well done.
Well done, well done. Okay, next we'll be turning right over to County Administrator time.
Thank you, Commissioner-President Guy. Commissioners, your draft meeting agendas for the next couple weeks. We'll review Tuesday, February 2nd. You begin your morning with St. Mary's County Board of Health. You have 3 proclamations: African American History Month, Dating Violence Prevention Month, and Transit Equity Day. You also have 2 requests for public hearing from the Department of Land Use and Growth Management, one for critical area zoning map amendments, and the communication, a request for public hearing for the communication memorandum on solar farm moratorium. And then you also have a request for the ordinance to amend the official zoning map of St. Mary's County to change a critical area overlay from an RCA to an IDA on the Real Food Studio project. That's a request for public hearing as well. And then you have your weekly legislative updates from the Office of the County Attorney. The following week, on February 9th, you have your legislative updates from the Office of the County Attorney, and you do have a closed session scheduled that day on real property. For this morning's business meeting, we begin with item B from the Department of Finance.
Let me interrupt you just for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Back to your February 2nd, just Department of Land Use Growth Management request for a public hearing on the critical area zoning map amendments. We have an April 1 deadline to have that done and sent back up to Critical Areas Commission. Now, we will be able to do that by that time?
Our plan is to have that done by April 1st, but Mr. Hunt has also asked for an extension in case there's any extenuating circumstances.
Well, we passed a motion at the last critical area meeting that we have it done by April 1st.
Great.
So hopefully, I'll bring that up as FYI so we can get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for this morning's business meeting, you begin with item B from the Department of Finance with the approval of loan application for St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission. Mr. Erickson is here in person today, and Jeanette Cudmore will be introducing Mr. Erickson. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioner. Morning, Mr. Erickson.
Sorry for the pause, but mine says the Metropolitan Commission. I think it got changed on me. Good morning. Have Mr. Erickson here from Metcom to go over his loan request.
Is that it?
That's it. Go for it.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's been a long time since we've been in front of you for a loan application. This is not a request to borrow. It's just simply a loan application. With us today are Patty Stigman, our CFO, and our Chief Engineer, Christy Hollander, if you have any very specific questions. Today, we're requesting your concurrence to submit a loan application for the funding of the next phase of the Town Creek Water System Replacement Project. This would be phase 2 of a 5-phase project. Each one of the phases is about 8,000 to 9,000 feet long. Construction costs are anywhere between $2 and $2.5 million for the construction costs only. Phase 1, Commissioner Morgan, should be completed by February.
Is this Spruce Drive?
In fact,
So you're gonna get
the
Spruce-
section on Spruce Drive associated with the speed humps, our inspection crews have been working with Willie Buckler. We just sent an email off to John Dietrich. That section's done for your speed humps, so the speed humps can move forward. There is one additional speed hump past, I believe it's Chestnut, that is also part of the speed hump project. And that part of work is part of our phase 2, not of our
Okay,
phase
so
1.
the residents back there obviously are concerned. I mean, this project's been going on now for how many years, when it was supposed to take months? So I'm hearing a lot about, I mean, I would encourage the sheriff maybe to put some speed traps back there, because, you know, apparently there's some cars just deciding that 80 miles an hour is a fair speed on Town Creek, and we have bicyclers and walkers back there. I would ask that, you know, we get those speed humps put in as best we can. Now, maybe phase 2, whatever it is you're doing for Spruce, we get the speed humps at least partially installed now that you're done with the project. My other question is, apparently they're also storing a lot of their equipment down there at the old Town Creek Pool. Is that fair statement?
Some contractor equipment, I believe so.
So I guess, the concern that the residents are bringing up back there is, there's a little bit of rent going to the Town Creek Pool, but, this is, the noise, the disruption to the neighborhood is really causing them some concerns. So my real question to you is, since it's taken years to do what we thought was going to be months, is this project going to take months or is it going to take years?
Phase 2, the next phase?
Whatever phase we're going to be in, yeah, I mean.
Well, the funny part about that is the loan process, just to get from the application stage to the award stage, is about 15 to 18 months. So we won't even be bidding the project until October, November of this year, and we won't even be giving a notice to proceed until the Board of Public Works approves that, which will be later. So probably
that could be the whole next administration.
Not until the spring of 2022 would we even be beginning construction, and it's slated to be, I think, less than 360 days. So between spring of 22 and spring of 23.
Well, I mean, seriously, if you think about the amount of time it takes, I mean, we look at the project in Lexington Park, Patuxent Park, how many years literally that takes. I'm looking at something I would consider Spruce Drive to be a relatively simple avenue, and it's taken us years. So, I mean, I can see, why the residents back there stay mad, contact me consistently about this. And, I can only beat the drum to you for so long, but, they're beating on me, so I'm just passing the beat down.
Absolutely understood. It's a tough project. We're putting meters in, which there were no meters there before. We're replacing existing infrastructure, obviously, and we're trying to minimize the outages. You get water notification, temporary outages all the time in there, and we try to bulk those together intersection to intersection so that people aren't aggravated consistently. But we learned a lot in the first phase.
Well, I hope you learned it. Knowledge is good, as I said before, so hopefully lessons learned will speed the project up, and the Town Creek residents will be able to sort of get back to some level of normalcy at the end of the day.
Agreed. And phase 3 is not scheduled for funding until 2026, so there'll be a gap between phase 2 and phase 3.
Thank you.
Mr. Erickson, tell me, I see there's 5 phases to this. If I read this Dewberry report accurately. Do you need a minute to catch up with that? Or you?
No, sir.
I figured you were pretty smart with that. So, how many people will $3 million help out? I mean, is it like? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. It has to be done. But I would assume that when you do an application, when we give you permission to do an application, we're giving you permission to borrow the money.
Absolutely not. Application is just an approval to submit to get us in the MDEQ, which is 15 to 18 months long, to determine if this project gets priority based on the amount of funding that's available at the state.
So then what will happen is if you get approved, you'll come back and say, we've been approved, we'd like the authorization to borrow.
The good thing about the MDE loans, as far as timing goes, MDE won't approve any project until the bids are in hand. So this project actually has to be bid, and the bid results forwarded to the state. We have to come back before this board to have a resolution signed to get your authorization to borrow.
Okay. Well, let me just make sure I got my steps correct. We're going to approve an application is what we're going to do today, what the request is for today.
Yes, sir.
And when the application, if and when it's ever approved, for whatever steps need to be taken, you'll come back again and say, we've been approved, we'd like to borrow this money, here's what it's going to cost, interest rate-wise or whatever, and you'll ask for approval of that.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay. How many phases have you finished if you have 5 phases in Town Creek?
This is phase 2. The request is phase 2. Phase 1 is under completion right now.
That is Spruce Drive.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now,
well, Spruce Drive, Town Creek Drive, Gunston Drive, and a couple of the ancillary roads in
okay,
between.
well, again, when I looked at the Dewberry thing, well, I won't get into that. Bottom line, I guess I'm getting at is, you get $3 million in phase 2. How much are all 5 phases going to run?
Well, each phase is about $2 to $2.5 million.
So $12, $15 million?
Absolutely. And we've spread it out into phases just from an affordability standpoint.
Have you any additional customer base there, or are you just?
No additional customer base at all. just
So
like
the
Southampton.
ratepayers across the board will have to just pay the increase.
And that's why we have 5 phases also.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Let me change the subject for a second. Has there been any more discussion about the water and sewer project for the base of PAX amongst your board? I haven't been gone back to the base and addressed it any time recently, but since we're talking water and sewer and upgrades to not only Patuxent Park but to Town Creek, but you got that RFP that's still lingering out there.
They recently did an addendum to the RFP. I think it was for additional time. The RFP actually includes Webster Field, and it actually includes the Solomon Annex. And Metcom has no jurisdiction in Calvert County for the Solomons Annex. So we still are not responders to that RFP. We have a representative on our board that sits on our board that represents the base. And because of that relationship, they have provided us with an alternate person to sit on the base so that that person can continue to manage that project. They thought that was the proximity of being on the Metropolitan Commission board and also being in charge of the RFP were a little bit too close, so they've removed him and put a replacement.
Okay.
But that is the current status.
Okay.
Well, I move to approve the Maryland Water Quality Financing Application for federal fiscal year 2021 and state fiscal year 2023 capital project financial assistance through the Maryland Department of the Environment in the amount of $3,098,991 in accordance with Section 113-3.c of the Code of St. Mary's County.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. And item C is from the Department of Economic Development with the Visit St. Mary's and Marketing and Media Annual Plan. Chris Casalemas, Director, Department of Economic Development, presenting this morning, and he'll introduce Regina Fadden, who's joining us WebEx. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you,
Morning,
Dr.
everybody.
Bridget. Good morning. Today we have a short presentation regarding Visit St. Mary's Marketing and Media Plan. Who we have us with on the phone is Dr. Regina Fadden, who's the Executive Director of Historic St. Mary's City. She's also the Chair of the Visit St. Mary's Maryland Board. The annual agreement with Visit St. Mary's requires the organization to submit a marketing and media plan annually to the county in January. Just as a reminder, tourism is one of our target industries for economic development. The county benefits greatly when tourists visit our great county. Not only does the county receive direct revenue in the form of accommodations tax, but when people visit here, they spend money at our local businesses. And typically, they want to have a local experience, which means they're going to our, not to our chains typically, but to our small local restaurants and businesses who get direct funding. So it's just extremely important for us. As you know, we've been without a director for Visit St. Mary's for several months. We are actively recruiting and interviewing for that position so that we can get it filled with a qualified candidate. We've had a lot of applications, but we want to make sure we get somebody who's really good. I do want to take this opportunity to publicly thank Dr. Fadden for all the time she's spent helping to manage Visit St. Mary's during this interim. As you know, she's a busy person with a full-time job, and she has put hours and hours into helping us manage Visit St. Mary's, so I just want to thank her publicly for that. So with that, I'll turn it over. She's going to go through a quick PowerPoint for us. Dr. Fadden?
Okay, thank you, Chris. I appreciate your kind words. Just happy to be of help to the community. So Elise is going to take care of the PowerPoint. Okay. So again, this is to present our marketing and media plan for this year to let you know what's going to be happening. So I said, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure to present this plan for your consideration. Could we go to the next slide, please? Okay. And so I want to offer some background for those who might be attending this meeting and not be familiar with Visit St. Mary's, Maryland. In 2015, the Board of County Commissioners decided that they wanted to grow the tourism economy in St. Mary's and hired a consultant firm to develop a tourism hospitality master plan. The consultants led an inclusive process that brought together stakeholders from a broad and diverse group of businesses and organizations involved with the tourism industry. In 2017, the County Commissioners approved the plan, which acts as a roadmap for developing and strengthening the local tourism economy. The next step was the formation of the nonprofit Visit St. Mary's Maryland to implement the master plan. Visit St. Mary's Maryland is overseen by a volunteer board comprised of leaders of businesses and organizations involved with tourism. We have developed a mission and vision, and our primary goal is to attract overnight visitors to St. Mary's County. As the organization is funded in part by the county's accommodations tax, and Visit St. Mary's Maryland deploys those funds to support local businesses. Thank you. Next slide, please. Here are our mission and vision statements. The main thing to understand is that Visit St. Mary's serves the community by designing, developing, and supporting the county's tourism assets for the benefit of the county and its residents. Our vision is to promote those aspects of the community that are unique to St. Mary's County, our history and heritage, to create a national brand, and to also offer modern amenities that the traveler in 2021 will expect. Travelers want unique experiences, as Chris mentioned, and they also want great food, entertainment, and the opportunity to enjoy the healthfulness and beauty of the county, which includes our trails, boating, charter fishing, and cycling. Next slide, please. Next slide. Just to let you know what we've been working on during this year, we've worked to raise the awareness of St. Mary's County as a destination. You can see a slide to the right that shows you a photo from our current website, which was newly developed last year. Developed targeted marketing approaches. We've been focusing on the drive market, so what people can reach us within one day, weddings and sports. Gone to trade shows and client site inspections. Again, one of the things that Visit St. Mary's can do that small businesses and owners of small businesses are not as able to do are to get out and participate in trade shows, make connections to potential customers, service those customers, connect them to local businesses. And so they said we act as a connector for those local businesses. We've developed new materials in a visitor's guide, a handbook for venue operators. And then we know that we need opportunities to develop experiences here to make sure that when people visit, that they have a great experience for multiple days. Again, we wanted them to stay overnight. And as I mentioned, we have a new website. So could we go to the next slide, please? So as you know, nothing in 2020 went as expected because of the pandemic. And so one of the things that we did with the help of the county commissioners and CARES Act funds was to have a social media campaign. We really wanted, when people were traveling, to let people in the community know what's here and what's available. We were very concerned about restaurants and bars and small businesses that might not make it through the pandemic. So again, with the support of the county, we administered and marketed a restaurant what we call the Boost gift card campaign. So that added value when someone bought a gift certificate to purchase meals or drinks at a restaurant. We were able to offer additional value, sometimes doubling the cost of the value of the card, again, through funds that we channeled through from the county to the businesses directly. We also informed stakeholders of grant and loan opportunities, BPP, and other opportunities, and then also, again, had a media campaign for local spending locally. So all of the things that go into tourism also enrich the life for people who live here, and sometimes they don't get out and see that till someone comes to visit them, but they have wonderful things that they could do without traveling even beyond the bounds of the county. So we just wanted to let them know that, and again, keep the restaurants and all of those amenities going during this period. The next slide, please. So one of the marketing and media strategy goals, even despite COVID, are the same as we would always do: change the perceptions and drive positive awareness about the county. We want people to know. We don't want St. Mary's County to be a well-kept secret. We want people to know what they can do here and that they could do enough in St. Mary's County, whether they be adult travelers or they be families, that would keep them here overnight. Again, we're funded by the accommodations tax. And so one of the metrics that we look at is how many people are coming to the county and staying overnight. We also want to add value for the tourism industry, they said, by developing and executing programs and campaigns, again, that support our local businesses, hotels, restaurants, all those people who participate in tourism, and improve the image and perception of St. Mary's County as accessible destination from, say, Washington, Baltimore, and other areas to come for the weekend, and expand our reach to key markets. And again, that's something that Visit St. Mary's can do with its position better than the small business or the individual owner. Next slide, please. And so again, I don't want to read all these out to you, but again, we're looking at where can we reach out and get the best return on the investment that the county is making through its tax dollars. We want to increase, again, awareness by using media target markets and create the intent to travel. Right now, when we're still sort of locked down and not as able to travel, we want to make sure that people, when they're ready to travel, have that intent to travel here. They might be like me, looking online, where can I go once all of this ends? And we can get back to normal. So we want to make sure that they know that there are things for them to do here. Okay, we want to increase the actual traffic. So one of the things that we have built into the new website is a CRM capability, which means we can use the contacts that we get through the website to convert, interest into visitation, into overnight stays. Again, we want to expand our presence at trade shows for weddings, sports groups, group travel, and consumer travel. We are looking at metrics so that we can report back to the county and the countyans to make sure that they understand that we're making good use of the dollars with, like I said, targets for increasing digital marketing. And we have had a great amount of success with that recently. I said increased web interaction, beautiful new website, very modern looking. The other one functioned well, but like everything, the way that people look at websites change. So we did make a change there. And again, making sure that our marketing and sales strategies are actually producing visitation and dollars coming into the county. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, I don't want to go through all these, but you can see all of our drive markets, so Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Richmond's only a couple of hours away, Northern Virginia. People may come from Philadelphia, that's still drivable within the day, Delaware, and Southern PA. So these are some of the key markets we're looking at. Please forward to the next slide. So again, we want to meet people where they are and what they're looking for. So this is some of the marketing and grant expenditures, and we've been working on looking at these different segments of the market. So you have the leisure drive market, you have enthusiasts. Enthusiasts might be people who want to go charter boat fishing, or might be interested in history and heritage, or might have those different types of interests as cyclists as well. People who have that particular interest. And of course, weddings are big business down here. And we are seeing, I speak for Historic St. Mary's City, a lot of interest in 22 and outer years to book weddings here. And that's one of the things that we can offer that you can't get in Montgomery County or other areas, in urban areas, where you can have a wonderful experience with your family and friends in a unique setting. That is also, right now, people are concerned about helpfulness, but also, like I said, in a tidewater setting that you just can't duplicate in an urban environment. So that's what those are our target markets for this year for spending. I see. Please advance to the next slide. So again, the sales strategy, like I said, we want to lead, share sales leads. When we hear that someone is interested, whether it comes through the website or other matters of inquiry, get that information to our partners, whatever partners they may be, tent rentals, hotels, restaurants, help engage with corporate event planners, wedding planners, sporting groups who might want to come down, go to wedding shows to showcase what we have down here. Renew the emphasis on small business meetings. This is something that's, again, sort of fallen by the wayside with COVID. And then also make sure that we're getting information out, whether it be digital or print, so that we can capitalize on opportunities to, again, connect to other businesses and offer opportunities to local people. Next slide, please. So this is an example of some of the work that's been done by Mary Wagner, who is one of the staff members at, the only staff member right now at Visit St. Mary's, Maryland. And she has been putting out digital and social media posts through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and looking at those metrics and trying to create interest in local businesses. And so we had a big holiday push to try to get people to go out and visit, buy local, whether it be food or other types of things. Like I said, we were also looking at, again, those metrics, and then I said, making sure that people understand what's here and what's available. And we've seen those numbers grow. We have a metric we want to grow by 5% a month. Some months lately, over the holidays, it wasn't growing as much, but we certainly expect that that's going to continue to grow as we saw earlier in the year. Next slide, please. So this is the cover of our visitor's guide, and that if you want to go in, and I know a number of you travel, the county commissioners, other people, when you travel, you need somebody to help you curate that and to give you ideas of the things that you can do. So if you get this guide, you can look through it. There are some articles to talk a little bit about what might be of interest to you in the county, but then also to list businesses and experiences. So we get this out through Maryland Welcome Centers in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and as far west as Virginia and to New York. Again, so we're looking really at drive markets where people will pick this up and then be able to have some idea of what they might want to do once they get to St. Mary's County, or to, again, create intent. Next slide, please. Again, these are full-page ads that have been put together showcasing food. One of them, focuses on Leonardtown and the first nights in Leonardtown. There's a lot of activity on the first nights to get people to be aware that the shops are open. They can come down, they can listen to music, they can see performances, and give them the date so they can start planning. Again, the other is also focused on Leonardtown, but again, showing images of what you can do here. So people, when they're thinking about what they might experience in St. Mary's County, they can sort of see themselves, or they can see the experiences that they might find down here in St. Mary's. Next slide, please. And then we have the opportunity to, in 2021, to market directly to tour operators, the people who plan these big group tours. There are going to be over 3,000 travel professionals that are going to be gathering in Baltimore. We have arranged for a Southern Maryland pre-conference familiarization tour, so you get an opportunity to take, the people who want to come down and see what we have to offer, to take them around and give them a real hands-on experience in the county, so then they can go back and be our advocates and help us sell St. Mary's County to the people who might be interested in the type of experiences that we have down here. Next slide, please. And so looking forward, as Mr. Castellan mentioned, we are looking forward to recruiting new leadership. We have been in conversation with a number of potential new directors. We do want to make sure that we're going to successfully emerge from COVID-19. We have a board, and probably all the board members on there: Scott Sanders, Nancy Eastling, Chris Castellan, Rich Fleming, who's the head of the chamber, Phil Langley. So we all represent different aspects of the tourism economy in St. Mary's County, and we work well together and very energized to get people knowing more about us and wanting to come visit us. And again, focus more on direct sales and very targeted marketing, and have that mapped out for the rest of this year, and then looking into next year, make sure that we're going to come back strong. And again, we know there's pent up demand, and we want to take advantage of that. Next slide, please. So here's, again, a list of the board that you can see, people from attractions, event venues, hotels, like I said. So we work together, like I said, to, again, combine our strengths and then reach out to businesses, reach out to our own areas. There we have a group of restaurants that work together. Scott Saunders has worked together with distilleries and wineries. There's a new organization for venues and inns to work together. And that's been a great part of this tourism hospitality plan that the commissioners kicked off, is to get us all talking to each other and seeing how we can complement one another and create these experiences for visitors to St. Mary's and for people who live in the community. I know that's something of interest to economic development, to create experiences for the people who live here. So we have these very talented and educated people on the base who are also looking for things to do. So we want to encourage them and let them know what is here in the community. So that is the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions or to respond to any observations and look forward to hearing from you.
Dr. Fadden, thank you very much. A lot of great work on this, and I think I just want to highlight what you pointed out right at the end too, that the importance of especially this past year, being able to refocus a little bit locally and help to provide quality of life for our own citizens. It's very important, and it's good to see that Visit St. Mary's was able to adapt to that. I do want to bring up one idea that I've mentioned in the past that I would still like to see Visit St. Mary's kind of focus on in the future as something additional to add to your portfolio, is the interaction with the airport. This board and boards previous to me sitting here have put a lot of effort and time and money into our local airport, and I think that would be another market of people with possibly disposable income that could probably expand the radius that you reach just a little bit more and really be able to pull people in that would really enjoy St. Mary's County and really enjoy being able to visit here. So that's just something to keep in mind that I'd like to, hopefully you all can look at in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that suggestion. I know Scott has been very enthusiastic about the fly-in markets and other opportunities, so that will be absolutely something to keep in mind. Thank you.
I want to say, Dr. Fadden, it's been a pleasure working with you all these years down at St. Mary's City. A couple things. I concur with Commissioner Colvin on the airport and the fly-in farmers market that is held periodically on Saturdays and Sundays. I know that Scott is out there peddling his tobacco barn alcohol. Nancy is out there every week, and they have a good variety of different people and groups that show up there. So every fly-in farmers market doesn't have the same people selling stuff. So it's a really good thing to have. And I would also compliment you on the fact, we're going through this COVID thing right now, and, much of our economy, particularly in the Lexington Park, California area, is based upon, people traveling in for the base. Sadly, travel has been curtailed and the hotels are hurting, and I want to thank Chris very much for his work trying to get money out to the hotels via, another one of these rescue packages. But as we go down the path, it becomes more apparent to me that the ability to work from home and Zoom or WebEx or you name it, they got it out there is prevalent. And it will be a major concern of mine as we go down the road that now that the technology is there, that I don't know what's going to happen to all these hotels in the number of rooms. Now, hopefully it'll get back to normal. People, after the COVID is over, you get your shots and things calm down, that the travel will be coming back again. But, we depended, and as did you, on that Sunday through Thursday overnight stays for the revenue brought in that goes to support organizations and providing tourism to the county. So, we have to focus on that in addition to how we use the venues across the board and solve the lingering problems that are sitting out there right now. So I just want to thank you and your entire board for what you're doing for the county, and we'll just keep plugging along.
Okay. Well, thank you. And it is a concern. I mean, you remember back with the sequestration and the devastation again that happened to the hotels without the federal travel. And I hope it will come back, because I think there's more that can happen when we're in person. But I'm not in control of that, but we have to be aware. And I don't know what the long-term impact is going to be, because schools aren't traveling. That was a big business for us at Historic St. Mary's City. So I think we just have to keep track of this and see again what we can offer. The benefit of being in St. Mary's, when the Historic St. Mary's City closed, when the governor closed the state and we opened again in July, and our visitation was good. We made up for the loss in school tours because people want to get out. And I'm talking about not about what you're talking about, which is the business traffic. But we did see a good visitation over the summer with people coming and wanting to be on the trails and be healthy. And I think there are some great assets that maybe we can capitalize on. I'm not going to say that it's going to balance off all of the losses in the hotels, but we certainly are hoping. And I hope, like I said, that it bounced back after sequestration and people will still want to get together. But we'll do our best to capitalize and bring people in as much as we can, or find other avenues to build the tourism economy.
Great.
Yeah, I think you hit.
Thank you. And I thank you all.
Thank you too, and for everything you've done. And I think one thing you hit on to that we need to have more emphasis on is the physical recreational opportunities that'll bring more people down here. I know we got the tourism and everything as far as seeing artifacts and whatever, St. Mary City, but to hit on your trails, whatever it might be, canoeing or whatever, anything we can do to give physical activities, bicycling, et cetera, more emphasis, probably help bring tourism down here also. But thank you for everything you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, and I know you all work in business, and you all have been deeply invested in the county, and we're all just concerned to make sure that everybody gets through this and is made whole again at some point. So thank you all for your service.
Anything else, Commissioners? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. And item D is also from the Department of Economic Development with the Rural Legacy Area Preference. Mr. Castellanos?
Thank you, Dr. Bridget. We come every year to the commissioners and ask the commissioners to take a position on the rural legacy priority area. So we asking commissioners today to sign a letter to the Rural Legacy Board that places the Mattaponi Rural Legacy Area as the county's first priority area for Rural Legacy Area state funding awards. We have two rural legacy areas. We have Mattaponi and Huntersville, as you know. Mattaponi is a little bit closer to the base. It's a lot closer to the base. It really, we can almost always use the REPI funding for that, so we can match REPI funding, so we get a lot of bang for our buck there. So we do, once again, ask you to prioritize Mattaponi over the Huntersville Rural Legacy Area. And as a side note, the Rural Resource Conservation Development Group, which is assigned to that, has done a really, really good job. They're just doing very well. So I'd like to continue with that if we can.
I think it's good that we continue to, obviously we have to protect the base.
Yep.
We also know that there's a lot of opportunity with REPI dollars and other funds that Program Open Space brings that we can leverage to, attract and enhance our rural legacy, yet continue to evolve with our naval aviation industry.
Yeah.
So I move to prioritize the Mattaponi Rural Legacy Area for funding from the state of Maryland, and to authorize the Commissioner President to sign a letter to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and other related documents.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Tell me, are we trying to get so many acres in St. Mary's County in this program? Or I've often heard a number like 60,000 acres is what we're trying to. We have a goal as to what we're trying to preserve.
Yes, Commissioner Hewitt, I don't know the goal off the top of my head, but I know we have Donna Sasser on the line who probably knows that number by heart. So Donna, if you're available, if you can hear us.
Mr. Castellanos, she's trying to log in, but she's not. She doesn't have audio yet.
Okay, well, I guess my thought would be you don't have to. I mean, I'm under the impression that we're around 20,000 and our goal was 60.
I think that's right.
My point is, how are we doing? Are we reaching our goal? Are we getting there? Is it slowed down? Because what I read in here is that we're prioritizing Mattaponi for a couple of reasons, which I agree with. The REPI money, which helps the base, but also that Huntersville has already been mostly has the easements on it.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, how much land do we have available that can we get to our goal? Is that 60,000 reasonable?
So, Commissioner Hewitt, we did expand the Huntersville Rural Legacy Area. I think it was a year and a half or 2 years ago. So we do have a little bit more land there in Huntersville that we can preserve. I think we're doing very well. I mean, my understanding is that we're one of the most active counties in the state in terms of land preservation, so I think we do very, very well. But I think it is a reasonable goal, and I think we're making progress in both areas. We have the PTLT who's doing well in Huntersville now. So they're both active and they're both doing very well, and we, like I said, we're just continuing to make progress.
Okay, so if people want to get into these programs, do they call your office?
Absolutely. They can call my office, or they can call Donna Sasser directly, our division, Ag and Seafood Division. We have also information on our website, but anyone who wants to, and Donna is very well known in the community. People reach out to her directly, but certainly they can call us or email us any way they want to contact us. And I see Donna's there now. I don't know if you can you speak, Donna? Still trying to log in. That's all right.
Donna, you may need to check your microphone settings. We don't have audio from you yet. Technology challenges. No, Donna, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. It doesn't look like you have your microphone connected.
Those numbers, the numbers that you quoted, I think are pretty accurate. 60,000 rings a bell with me, and I think we are in the 25, yeah.
Again, that rings a bell with me. But I think what people are unsure of is, okay, if I have my 200-acre farm and I want to put it in this program, I think the key is they can continue to farm.
Correct.
I think what they also need to know is they cannot turn 200 acres into quote unquote 200 houses, because Septic Bill 212 took care of that.
Right.
True. Or 236 back in 2012. And lastly, that it's hard to understand if I go down this road, you know, A, what's the reward? What's the, you know, how much is it worth it? A. And B, what kind of restrictions do we get? So those are the types of things your office can tell people what to expect.
Correct, and Donna and her staff are advising people and meeting with people all the time to give them that information. Again, you get paid for keeping your farm as a farm in perpetuity. So it takes away development rights, although you can negotiate, I think, 1 or 2 additional developments on the property when you go into that agreement, so she can explain that to them also. But you get paid for keeping it the way it is, basically, and it's good for the family farms, good for our county, and we want to be a real beautiful county, we want to continue that, so it's good for us all the way around, and good for the base. Yeah. Is Donna?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Donna, can you speak to the goals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so the goals are in the Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan. Also part of the comprehensive plan is 60,000. And to date, with all of the types of preservation programs that we have 26,864 acres preserved.
And Don, how does that compare to other?
We do.
Go ahead.
We do work with landowners so that today we're discussing rural legacy. So if you're in a rural legacy area, we may encourage you to talk with the Southern Maryland Resource Conservation and Development, or may encourage you to talk to Patuxent Tidewater Land Trust. And then if Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation program is an option for you, that is the program our office works with. But we're familiar with each of the easement programs to let people know.
You're buffering.
Yes. We are, there are certainly counties across the state that have preserved a lot more acreage than we have in St. Mary's. But I think we've been doing about 1,000 acres per year on average.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions, Commissioners? No. We got a motion?
Motion
and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. And the Department of Recreation and Parks has FY21 fees and charges. Item E, Arthur Shepard, Director, presenting this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Shepard.
Good morning to you.
So you brought your finance with you?
Ms. Cudmore's joining Mr. Shepard this morning. Hello again.
She always seems to be behind. Good morning. Coming this morning for approval to deferring of the Recreation Division and Wacomico Gulf Shores Enterprise fee, to defer those fee increases to April 1, as you remember. And the budget FY21 budget process, you deferred those fees from July 1 start to January 1. Since we're in the COVID pandemic period, recommendation is to move them to be deferred to April 1, 2021.
Had calls from people who had Brunton Bay saying that, you know, they're in a disadvantaged position because there's 3 golf courses in the county. One is subsidized by the county, Wycomico. Second one's subsidized by the Navy and Annapolis River. And then they're out there hopefully getting it through the membership. How do our rates compare with, say, Brenton Bay? Are we, their point is they think our rates are lower or not competitive and given the fact that taxpayers' money is used to replace the golf carts, fix the bunkers, do the maintenance repairs at Wycomico, that they're adversely impacted. Do we match their rates?
One of the areas I think that we can speak fairly about the rate is our senior weekday pass is a lower rate. That's a good rate. Right now it's at $845 when it goes into effect in April 1 for unlimited golf during the week for the senior pass. Their passes seem to be higher, but as far as our point of sale, our rates are pretty comparable when you come in for one-time use, and that's what we found out over the pandemic. While our rounds were about the same, but our revenue was higher because we had more one-time point-of-sale users. Actually, our passes are down, believe it or not, over past years. Where we had 200 passes at that good rate, we have less pass holders. People are wanting to play different in more places, but the point-of-sale rate is high, and you'll see this pass falls going. So then what happened? The other one, Commissioner, would be that we did get into the CIP budget. But that is if you look at our balance sheet, our asset there is pretty strong there, and then that's just relatively new. But as far as that mortgage that was paid there, $80,000 a year, that building there is because of the user fees that come through there pays for that building. The user fee pays for all other operating costs, and you can see on the balance sheet and the audit sheet where the cash goes. But Jeanette can speak to that. Our actual net position with the assets we have on there, we're in pretty good shape. But I think we're comparable, Commissioner, except for that one pass area. And I stay in touch with the people at Bretton Bay myself.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure they probably talk to you too.
Yes.
But I guess the thought is that you're making your golf course better with whether it be the golf carts, the bunkers, the fairways, whatever.
Yeah, and I believe, and if you'll let me just a little bit more, public courses, municipal courses throughout the country, and you notice in all three of our counties there's a public course and municipal courses throughout there. And that's why, and we're talking about a new manager, is that I want our golf course to be a park, and we happen to play golf there, and make that an asset for all citizens. The clubhouse, a recreation facility, cart paths for walking, ponds for fishing, different culture change there, so that's an amenity in the North County that everybody can feel comfortable using.
Okay.
I want to thank you for what you just brought up, Commissioner Hewitt. There had been some discussion some time ago about the base sort of opening up the golf course to be more of a public course. And I had some phone calls from obviously some folks at Bretton Bay, and I can tell you that the captain and I have, the skipper of the base, have worked out an arrangement that's not going to take place, so that we can rest assured that Bretton Bay will continue to get its customers and not be competing against PAX ever becoming a quasi-public course along the way.
That's good news.
All right, I move that the FY21 fees and charges increases within the Recreation and Parks Recreation Division and the Wycomico Golf Course Enterprise Funds be delayed to April 1st, 2021.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. And next is from the Department of Finance with the budget amendment to realign the Piney Point Lighthouse. Ms. Cudmore and Mr. Shepard presenting this morning. Ms. Cudmore?
Yes. Good morning again. And we work together well with all departments and agencies. And so normally when they come through our office, we kind of, work together. So what we need here is, this is Piney Point Lighthouse. The project is needing additional funding, $7,907. And we're running it through the FIN 21, which we do with all project changes. And then we're using funding from the the Recreation Facility and Parks Improvement Project. And Mr. Shepard, if you want to speak more on the need of the funding.
Well, let's talk about that recreation facility. That's 1803, so that's an
Right.
FY18 where that's just, we're closing that down. So this is not new funding.
Right.
And then where we got is now just to finalize and complete the project. We've completed to pay it off of the new exhibit on the second floor of Piney Point Lighthouse Museum. If you haven't seen it, you'll want to. It's interactive. It has a nest that the children can go in for the osprey, the wingspans, the nest, a touch board. And then the other side on that second floor, the Tolson Hotel, well. That piece is, actually, it's a very attractive and very historical piece. So both of those pieces, the budget was about $100,000 to get in there. It's going to take us about $7,900 more to get it completed, to finish it off.
Right.
I've only heard one thing, and I don't even say it's negative, but one comment from a constituent who said they went down there, Long Drive got there, and it was closed, or they couldn't get in.
Yeah, I
so
don't
it's
like
kind of
that.
like, well, how do we know?
Yeah.
So now I told him, I said, typically, if I remember right, it's closed in the winter. Is that true?
No, 12 to 4. We're open, yeah. We're open now. They might have went in the morning. That might have been. They might have went during that period.
That Monday through Friday or Saturday?
On the weekends, yeah.
7 days a week, 12 to 4.
Mr. Now you're making me second guess. But yeah, it's open 7 days a week, 12 to 4.
Oh, they must have went in early or late. No, I think they went.
And then we did here recently have some mechanical failure where we had to close. I don't know if it was real recent. That was there.
Yeah, this was recently.
Yeah, so that's what happened there, but that still speaks to our website and all those things, that communication is, with this tourism that you were just talking about and people, their destinations, communication is so important, so I stand by that.
Well, what it was is they had small kids and they wanted to have them outside and figured this would, but they were just disappointed.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. One of them great Sunday afternoons, I went down just to be on the water then, so when it remembered that the exhibit was open, went inside to that too, paid as a customer and went and saw the exhibit. That was just an excellent Sunday afternoon.
Well, they wanted to use the restrooms.
Understood.
What are you going to do? Behind the marsh.
You can do that too. You can do that too.
Weeds.
Love to have you, but we could do that. No, but we're open. Everything's going well, and the exhibit's fabulous.
Good.
Good. But I'm going to say 12 to 4.
Yes, sir.
7 days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
All right. I move to approve and authorize the Commissioner President to execute the related budget amendments decreasing RP 1803 rec facility and park improvement by $7,907 and increase RP 1203 Piney Point Lighthouse Museum by $7,907.
Second.
Have a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. And item G is from the Department of Finance with the approval of the resolution for the realignment of 2020 sold bonds. Ms. Cudmore?
Thank you. You'll remember last spring, the $30 million on Consolidated Public Improvement Bonds, Series 2020, reclosed on May 12, 2020. The interest rate received was 2.21% for a term of 20 years. The official statement identified the projects received the bonds on page 2, and I have an actual copy of the book that we actually sold, and there's the listing of the projects. So the projects were identified actually in the resolution that was approved by you last March, and what we have to do is, for us to move sold bonds to another project, we have to bring back another resolution changing the alignment of the projects. So what we're doing here today is that sold proceeds from 4 projects are either they're completed or the projects will not be completed in the future. The 4 projects will be moved to unsold bonds and will be identified in the next bond sale or will be closed to the 2021 VIN reserve. Those 4 projects are bond issuance. We included $175,000 for that bond, and we actually have unspent funds of $35,670, so we didn't need all of those monies for the bond issuance cost. Sheriff District 4, $202,174 was identified that could be closed. Leonardtown Garvey Senior Center, $100,000 was identified, and radio system upgrades was identified for $204,620, bringing a total to $542,464. And then what we would like to do today is move these sold bond proceeds to 2 projects. The Ricky Drive Drainage Improvement Project, that project is now complete, so we can draw it down immediately. And also towards the Park Hall Elementary School roof HVAC of $453,694. Our bond counsel prepared the actual resolution to complement it and identified the items, the changed items on Appendix A.
Ms. Cudmore?
Yes.
Just because I don't understand, could bond issuance, So to do $30 million in bonds, we thought it would cost us $175,000 in addition to the interest that we would pay yearly on those bonds.
Right. The bond issuance costs actually cover what we pay the rating agencies. We pay almost $30,000 to each rating agency to get our rating reviewed.
Okay.
You know, we have to pay to print these books. We have to pay the bond counsel to prepare all the resolutions and make sure everything's done correctly. We have to pay our advisor to help us through the process. So there's a lot of costs that are associated that you may not see, but they are in the background.
I'm just surprised that we were off by $35,000.
Well, that's a good thing. So now we can use that money towards another project.
Well, what I would say in their defense, Commissioner Colvin, is we switched to a new agency, Rye River.
Okay.
Yeah, in the middle of all this, yeah.
So we may have been basing it upon,
A good point. Thank you.
you know, historical.
Yeah.
But one I ask about is like the 100,000. I always, when I see numbers that are, you know,
Perfect round number.
well, let's just say there's no decimals. Anyway, is that like I remember my days on the school board. They would come back and say, hey, we've got 100,000, I'll just pick that number because it's here. And it's because we had to have a performance bond for a year on a parking lot, and now it's been 11 months, and we think that performance bond is that the kind of thing this is?
No. This is actually cost in that project, that CIP project, that were not needed, based at looking,
$100,000 a year.
well,
Just makes you wonder.
right. That was the amount that was identified by the department in reviewing the other projects. Yeah,
Well, I'm glad we have savings.
that's right. So, and we're getting ready for the next bond sale. So we're also using $175,000 for the next bond sale, which will take place this spring. We're keeping it at that level because, you know, other costs are going up, so we want to make sure we have enough. And if we don't need it, I'll come back probably in September, and we can realign those funds. But once we borrow the money, we have to come back with a resolution to move to another project.
Right.
Well, I'm going to move to approve and execute the resolution supplementing Resolution 2020-05, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds, designating additional projects to be financed with the proceeds for the sale of such bonds, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign the related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kidwell.
Thank you, Commissioners. And item H is from the Department of Public Works and Transportation with the MDE Comprehensive Flood Management Grant application for Bayside Road. Mr. Diedrich, Director, presenting this. Good morning again.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Dietrich.
This effort grew out of the McIntosh Run flooding that we recently had, which of course is just a reminder of the other times that McIntosh Run is flooded in the past. And I appreciate the fact that commissioners sent out the letter that was attached in the package to the state to try to get them to work on MD 243. But there is, as most people know, a county escape route for the people in Compton if 243 is blocked, although sometimes that floods as well back from St. Clements Bay. Your package includes some maps and shows those flooding areas. Cecil Creek is the primary offender there. There's two branches to it that do flood periodically. There's also, I believe, one culvert location that simply takes water off fields that goes under the road that also can overtop in a bit like in the tropical storm that happened. So this grant is available, and what we're proposing to do is to use county money to do the design and we proceed on that immediately. If you allow us to put this request for construction money in, the construction money is not available to 23, so it would fit nicely. It'll probably take us that long, and this amount of money to really put together a proper plan, because we're going to have to do a hydraulic analysis to figure out how much do we actually have to raise the road. So, but that way the design money gets us started on the project earlier. Excuse me. And it also provides the match that we have to provide for the grant. I feel like it's a pretty solid idea because emergency services need some way to get in and get out of that area. And the only problem with Bayside, it's a long, if the state doesn't act on 243, Bayside is a fairly long diversion, but at least it's a way to get in and get out of the Compton area in such occasions. So I ask you to support our grant and allow us to submit it.
A couple of questions. I concur with the sentiment of what we're trying to do, because they get out of Compton and coming down through Brent Bay, you can't get through the bottom of that road. Do you feel that the estimate that you're giving us is accurate, and we're going to come back and find we need more money because of a miscalculation?
Now, Commissioner Morgan.
Well, I think we're reasonably accurate. The advantage of this, I guess, is that we can target certain areas, and there's probably 3 to 4 areas we're going to have to work on, and we could stage that work over a period of time, do the worst ones first. That would be the plan B. Don Mills and I went over this as carefully as we could, given the information we got, the 2-foot topos and so forth, and those maps that we attached. And we think we've got a reasonable construction estimate, though, to do all the work that's needed. Okay. But we do have a plan B, which is just going to spread the work over a longer period of time.
Well, I think that we would be hopeful that Plan A works, because all we need is a couple more hurricanes or floods to really exacerbate the situation.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Dietrich, I thank you for putting this forward to us, because I definitely support it, and all the help we can get, we definitely need to do. Tell me, are we making any progress with cleaning out these creeks and these runs? It's amazing. Since I did that walk with the guys in Canalcies over there at McIntosh Run and saw all that trees and debris, I look in all of them now. Whenever I'm driving through the county and I see a creek there, they're all over the place. How are we making out with that?
We're not making actually any progress in that right now. We know what can be done. Part of the issue is that, excuse me, the trees falling into the streams actually actually slow the flow of the water down, which backs it up, but it drops the sediment out, and it actually helps streams not get incised in the ground. So actually piling debris in the ponds or in these streams, cut trees and so forth, is one of the strategies for stream restoration.
Smokes, maybe you can forward me that website that says that. Because what I see when I look at these runs now, in these creeks, is I see all this white sand that's on the side. And it would seem to me that that is stuff that's coming down. Now, if these trees are blocking the sediment, I guess that I can see your point. It just seems like the sediment builds up and gets around it and gets in places where we don't want it. I mean, especially like that McIntosh, that bridge that runs underneath Route 5 there. There's so much debris there now, so much sediment there now, it's taken out a third of the amount that can go through the bridge. So I'm surprised to hear that we want trees in these runs.
I try to keep up on this stuff, and that's one of the, I actually watched a webinar last week on stream restoration. Ironically, there's a little philosophical battle going on because some people feel that although that may help the streams not get as deeply incised, it actually starves the kind of deltas that form, which is also, which supports the wetlands that are at the mouths of the streams.
People on Maple
So
Road
there's a,
that's flooding's good for the.
it's a
overall
so it's a
good?
battle. It's a battle between people with different philosophies on this. So it's another one of these deals where we probably need to be going back to doing more, a bigger focus on stormwater quantity. In the last few years, it's been more on the quality of the stormwater. So our stormwater facilities that are being built focus on trying to filter the water and make it better, which is great. But big ponds actually have a purpose because they help, well, just as we found out when that one blew out, the Beaver Pond blew out on Secretariat, it can cause, they do perform a useful purpose in mitigating floods, and when they're not there, the water just kind of shoots through.
Well, you have to excuse me, but I have to say to you is that if we're encouraging what I'll call some kind of revetment or some kind of levee to slow down the volume of water coming down, it seemed like it would be better if it was an engineered man-made structure than some beavers going out and saying, hey, we're going to put this thing together, even though they are very good engineers. But also to say that because trees are falling in, and we're supposed to say that's good, it just seems to be against common sense.
Well, it makes kayaking
very difficult. Yes. Well, another thing too, how would we enforce this on those of us who have streams going through private land?
Well, again, Commissioner,
how am I going to clear? I got a stream running through my property that dumps into St. Clements Creek. I mean, I can't stop the trees from falling across the stream.
Well, it seems like you should be responsible for keeping them out of the way in case they flood. If they flood somebody else, it should be. If the impact is on your properties that are impacting people who are upstream from you.
Commissioner Hood, you can come to my house. You know that August 4th storm? I can, you have my white sands. I can show you unbelievable flooding in the back of my house that happened.
Well, Commissioner President Guy, it's not about you personally.
No. But I'm just saying
about what happens upstream.
It's unusual. That's and
things fall in the way and impede progress of the water.
I think MDE is falling apart on this too. They should be more progressive on helping people keep streams and dams up and everything, and they're not doing it. You know, we just put out a bunch of money to enforce a dam on Johnson Pond. And MDE's not doing their part helping. I got a neighbor right now, he's working hard on fixing a dam on Ledford Pond, which is a 15-acre pond that catches a hell of a lot of sediment before it gets into St. Clements Creek and St. Clements Bay. But he can't afford it. He's about ready to just give up and just pay the fund to just tear the dam down, which would be an enormous amount of sediment going to St. Clements Creek and St. Clements Bay.
Well, I support anything that helps those residents on Bayside Drive and Maple Road and other places getting, flooded.
I do too. And this Bayside Road improvement should be hopefully an escape route in case there's a huge flooding again.
We are working, we did bring this matter up, the matter up of 243 with the state when we had our conference call a couple weeks ago, and at this point, they're just not working on it.
All right, well, let's get this one moving. I move to approve the application and submission to the Maryland Department of Environment Comprehensive Flood Management Grant Program for the design and construction of road improvements to Bayside Road. Authorize the DPWT Director to submit the application and authorize the Commissioner President to sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John D.
Thank you, Commissioners, and this completes County Administrator time.
Okay. Well, let's go right into Commissioner time, and we'll start with Commissioner Hewitt this time.
Oh, goodness, thank you. Lord knows, been getting a lot of emails and calls about the COVID-19 vaccine distribution. I have to say, I'm not of the 75 and older. I wasn't involved in the 1A or the 1B, but I am involved in the 1C, which is 65 and older, and hopefully my wife and I will get our vaccines next week. But the key is that the demand for these vaccines has well exceeded, I think, what we thought we would see. We did hear early on that they wanted people to take them to encourage other people to do it, elected officials to get them, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's a good thing. But the key gets to be is we're hearing a lot from people who are saying, look, the website, I get on at 4 a.m. in the morning, I'm trying to get my mom on there, I'm trying to do these things, and I can't get through. And Lord knows we're hearing you, we're hearing you. We're hopefully today that the governor will come out and talk more about the vaccine rollout. We've heard that, federally it's been slow coming from the federals down to the state, and Lord knows there's only so much vaccine that can be produced and people want it. But please call. We're going to try and hook you up with the right people that can hopefully identify your issue and put you on the list and get your appointments made. I think the health department's doing a remarkable job in the distribution that they're doing. We're hearing that we're probably #1 in the state as far as being able to distribute the number of vaccines we get. That's a great thing. But Lord knows this vaccine, this pandemic is not going to go away soon. We're hearing that, it could be summer before everybody has a chance to get a vaccine. But please, stay in touch with the St. Mary's County Health Department website, and if you have continuing issues with trying to get an appointment for yourself or a loved one or someone who qualifies, look, we're going to try and help you. And hopefully we'll get to phase C or 3 or whatever phase it may be that allows us to eventually get back to normal. Today we're going to pick representatives to a redistricting committee. We all know that the census is coming out, and hopefully we'll have those results back by summer sometime. And Lord knows we're hearing it could be early fall. This group will have, I think, a lot of work to do in a short period of time. But we've been hearing a lot from people about what they think the makeup of the group should be. And I have to say, as one commissioner, I think you have a point. Our makeup of our committee across the board, these people we recognize today, should be consistent with the makeup of our community. And let's hope we can find the right people who have the time and the energy and the expertise to get involved. Lastly, I spoke before about your SSTAT, your assessments, whether it be on your homes or commercial districts for the middle part of the county. I've heard from people that these assessments have been very high in many cases, and I do take pride at the fact that this board early on, I think last year or a year before, we implemented a 3% homestead tax. So if you're in your primary residence, your SSTAT, your property taxes can only go up 3%. But for people who have investment properties or commercial properties, those will pay the full amount. So again, if you think your assessment's too high, you have till February 12th to appeal it, and please, appeal if you think it's out of line. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin?
So I'll be brief this morning, but I do want to take a minute and talk about the vaccine clinics and how they've been operating. So I want to give recognition to our health department. They've been doing a phenomenal job with it, but I also want to give recognition to county government, our Department of Emergency Services, our Department of Public Works and Transportation, our Department of Aging. There's been a lot of participation and partnerships. Also the Sheriff's Office, our rescue squads, the EMTs that are out there helping provide the vaccine, and many, many volunteers that have given of their time to go out and help with this vaccine. This last year was difficult, and there's a feeling of hope in the community with this vaccine, and we're seeing that as commissioners. We're seeing the excitement about people wanting to get the vaccine, and especially wanting their elderly family members, that higher risk population, to be able to get the vaccine. We understand the frustration. We understand that there's a shortage of supply and the demand is really high. There's a lot of people. We approved a letter this morning to the governor saying we want as much vaccine as you can give us. I was on the phone with Senator Bailey over the weekend, and he was on the phone with the governor's office advocating for more vaccine supply for St. Mary's County. So thank you, Senator Bailey, for your work with that. It's a huge operation, and it's running incredibly smoothly, but it's going to take time. So continue to just have patience and stay safe in all that you're doing. If you choose not to get the vaccine, that is your right, and that's okay, but stay safe in all of the choices that you make. Relatedly, there's a lot of concern about schools and students going back to school. That is not something that falls under the purview of this board. Tune in tomorrow to the Board of Education meeting. I believe they're on at 6 p.m. and they're going to be talking about that, but it's coming and we're getting closer and closer to being back to normal. Thank you. Have a great week.
Commissioner Connor, are you on?
I am. I would.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say one thing for our health department. Just outstanding work. And to our county staff as well that have worked through everything with the vaccination process. To the volunteers that are out there, thank you so much. Truly amazing what you're doing out there. You're on your feet all day. And then we are #1 in the entire state for vaccinations at like 109%. They are getting extra doses out of the Pfizer vaccine, which no other county, well, there's one other county, but we're higher than them at the success rate. Let me tell you, 0 wasted doses. When you look across our state, that is profound when you're watching people waste doses of the vaccination when there's such a high demand. So thank you so much for your dedicated effort. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and continue the great work. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to just jump on the bandwagon real quick and compliment Dr. Brewster for what she's doing out there. It's not only the vaccine, but it's also the COVID testing program. And this weekend has been rather hectic, and I've got a lot of emails and more Facebook posts, and I'm just not going to get into a Facebook argument with anybody. It just, to me, it serves no purpose. But when the portal opened up this weekend, I want to let you know that in a 2-hour period on Saturday, they processed over 1,700 COVID vaccination approvals. This week, I think Dr. Brewster said that they're hoping to give out 5,000 first and second doses. They've already given out over 7,000 first and second doses, not including the hospital, and that gets us up to about 8,700 first and second doses. So that they're doing a remarkable job. And I know people are mad and, well, I didn't get in, and this. Remember, first of all, the system, the process, the portal is not managed by the county. It's managed by the state. It's a state portal. Everybody's doing the same thing. If you're going to get into it, what I would suggest is that little cue in there about putting in your insurance card. Get your insurance card downloaded ahead of time if you can, or take a picture of it. I'm also going to ask out there, and I don't know if CSM or the college can help to do this, but old people aren't exactly tech savvy. Young kids are. So maybe there's a way to get the colleges or the high schools or the STEM students to be able to be as an outreach program. And if seniors are having troubles getting into the portal and don't know how to do it, maybe there's a way these young kids who just press buttons for, that's how they live, they can help out people such as me who just are really sometimes technologically challenged along the way. But the most important thing is that Dr. Brewster's doing a great job. And there are some people out there who are naysayers and are going to continue to, balk at this, or they're mad about the portal opening up. I mean, like I said, it opened up on Friday or Saturday at 3. I think they processed everything within an hour, and then the portal had to close down because we had so much demand for a small supply. But I want to thank, as Commissioner Coleman said, Senator Bailey reached out to the governor. I called up the road a couple of times. We're going to get some more vaccine because we are proven to be more efficient and effective. And I really, really want to be able to continue to use the health department as much as possible. And the reason I say that is there's going to be a point in time when these vaccines are going to be going to CVS and Walmart and drugstores and doctors' offices, and everyone's going to be processing this stuff along the way. Well, I hate to tell you, think of what's going to happen on 235 if CVS and Walmart get vaccines and it becomes a free-for-all. Holy mackerel. If you think things are bad on 235 now, I can't imagine what it's going to look like people trying to get a Walmart or CVS or any place to get a vaccine. So I just say, Dr. Brewster, keep up the good work, and the more we can vaccinate before the commercial entities who make money on this get into it, let's take care of our own first. So enough on vaccine. The second thing I want to talk about today is to thank everybody for getting the ground broken on the North County Farmers Market. In this career, it takes a long time to get things done. And I said, this is my 11th year sitting here. But the North County Farmers Market is something that's been on the books for a long time to get done. And finally, we see the process is going through. We're getting the ground broken to get that done. We're going to get the rack done. Hopefully, it'll get started before I leave here and get that done along the way. But the importance of these farmers markets is great. In case you didn't know it, the South Farmers Market down by Gate 3 is now open on Saturday mornings from 10 to 1. It's not packed like it is all summer. It isn't the social setting like we're used to going down there. But they are selling the vegetables, the winter vegetables. They are selling other products down there. So if you can't get to the North Farmers Market, bear in mind that from 10 to 1 on Saturday mornings, the South Farmers Market is open, but obviously it's cold outside, so not a lot is growing, so the pickings are sort of smaller out there. So with that being said, jumping back onto the vaccine again, it's not only the health department, but it's our county staff. Aging and Human Services had people coming in all weekend working on getting things done. And I know I get the phone calls, I dial 475-4200 extension, was it 1405 or something like that, and nobody answers the phone. Well, we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. And I know people are volunteering, they're coming to me, Todd, I'm a nurse. I'll be glad to help put shots in people's arms. I have people come and say, can we help out at the site? We'll help do paperwork. We'll bring food. So we're working on getting through with Dr. Brewster on that to try to have the people that want to volunteer, because there's so many people who are appreciative of what we're doing that I'm not going to let the naysayers drown out the good. And with that, I say, have a good week. Thank you.
And Commissioner Morgan, the extension is 1049.
I'm sorry, 1049. 475-4200 extension 1049.
And can I also say the insurance information is optional, so if they want to skip over that in the portal, they can.
That's even more important. So fill out the form. You don't have to download that card and get lost like me when you're doing it. So maybe I don't need all those high school and college students. Thanks, guys.
Well, I wasn't good at that, Morgan, so I got somebody to take a picture of my card with my phone and sent it.
See?
I didn't know how to do that, but our staff here took care of it for me. So anyway, once again, capitalizing on what we're doing here in St. Mary's County, I'm very proud of our health department. I'm proud of Dr. Brewster and everything she is doing to make this work, and all the volunteers that have showed up to help direct traffic, to actually getting things set up and taking the paperwork from people and introducing themselves. And I've had nothing but good comments from people who've sent me emails saying how great it was to show up there for their appointment, and they were the third car in line, and they were expecting long lines, and they weren't there. But we have to do, right now, this is the best way of doing it. And for those of you trying to get scheduled, you have to go to our website, and that's smchd.org, St. Mary's County Health Department. And you do -19-vaccine. And when they get the vaccines, I think it's sometime on Thursday afternoons. Is that when they usually get it? Or Friday morning?
Friday.
So,
Numbers.
oh, the numbers?
The numbers.
Yes, sir. We get the numbers usually on Thursday and open the portal on Friday.
On Friday, yes. So you have to understand that we are on that train of, they give out to the counties according to the state's guidelines, and we're stuck with that. It's just like an open market to get vaccine right now. So we have to do that, and so look very closely on Thursday afternoon or Friday mornings as you go into the website to find your times and dates to get your vaccine. And once again, for those of you who are old enough, Aging and Human Services phone number 301-475-4200, extension 1049, and they will put you on a list. And I understand this week they've drawn down that entire list already?
Yes, those are for seniors that, as Commissioner Morgan mentioned, that are having trouble and would like assistance.
Right. So for you seniors out there, look, go to the Aging and Human Services phone number there, just mentioned to you, extension 1049, and they will put you on the list. And they do draw those down, so go ahead and do that. I want to thank everybody for the patience. I know this COVID thing is taking a long time, but it's going to get, hopefully we're looking for light at the end of the tunnel here, but it's going to take a lot more time. It's obvious that it's going to be at least 6 more months of just getting the vaccines, and probably even more. So we just don't know right now. So please be patient with our people. Believe me, what I've seen, we're doing everything we can. Huge volunteer network has worked to get these vaccines and tests done. So thank you very much. With that, I'm finished. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Commissioner President Guy, may I also add on the Health Department COVID-19 website, there's also a place for to sign up for e-notices. So if folks cannot get in the portal, they can sign up for e-notices, and when those portals are open, they'll get an email.
They'll get a notice. Okay, good. So
Thank
go ahead
you.
and sign up for the e-notice if you can't get in. Good. Okay. With that said, I need a motion.
Move to enter into closed session to discuss personnel.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.